intimidating to be going up against T1 when no one thought you would beat Gen G and no one thought you would even make it to Worlds. No one thought you would do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, so Azael, you mentioned how, I mean, obviously you get to the World Championship, you got 10 players on the stage, some of them maybe overshadowing others. Let's talk about the players who live in the shadows. That would be the junglers.
The jungle.
Pyosik, yes, exactly. He knew where I was going. Oner and Pyosik, these two guys who have to operate as facilitators around all three of their lanes at different times.
What's interesting is when you look at their stats, they are actually very similar. Kill participation at 14, their K+A in the early game, their overall CSD is where you see slight differences, in the jungle proximity is where you really start to see the stark contrast. But the main reason for this is because these two junglers offer very similar roles for their teams. Often they'll look to try and get early ganks, they prioritize on trying to get their laners ahead, but that's not to say that they can't be carried themselves. When we look at the champions that they actually bring onto the Rift, one of the biggest differences that we see between the two of them is some of the global impact that we get from Oner and some of his individual playmaking on the Lee Sin, with the Kindred answer into the Graves for the side of Pyosik. And when he gets his hands on this champion, this is where we get to see him really be one of those big superstar carries for the team.
Yeah, Jap pointed this out earlier in his draft comparison on red side and blue side, but the fact that Pyosik, because Pyosik is the Kindred mark, right? Like he was a Kindred one trick off the ladder. It's actually really huge that he has this matchup. It's opened up a lot of more draft flexibility to DRX, in addition to these creative pushing bot lanes that they like to play. And while I don't think like either jungler is probably going to be the standout like carry performer for each team, I am looking forward to seeing how they facilitate their lanes and who has better jungle to lane communication, coordination, because I do think that both of these junglers have improved significantly in that department specifically.
To me, that just speaks to the wealth of carries that we have out there on the stage, and that for each of the junglers, really it is just about facilitating those lanes. The one lane we haven't spoken about just yet there, Jat, is of course the bot lane. We got Gumayusi on one side, we have Deft on the other.
Yeah, and even the story between these two, Gumayusi is still so much younger than Deft. There's almost no other AD carry as experienced in the world as Deft. And they've both had some huge moments at this World Championship, but Gumayusi in particular has had a couple game-saving team fights. He had that one against RNG, and this one in particular, where if he doesn't pull this off, maybe they don't even make it to this series.
And I can't stress enough how much of a struggle kind of he and Keria had compared to expectations. Keria was pretty open about dealing with symptoms from long COVID, but then for him to come out and have such a massive teamfight performance like this in such a huge series, another part of the reason why T1 is here is because their bot lane, people are like, okay, it's spring T1 again. They're hyper aggressive. They're murdering people all over the map, and Guma is such a huge part of it.
Well, I think it does not do him justice to kind of skip over the struggles that he did have.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Because if you just watched MSI finals, you're coming in, you're like, yep, Guma's the best MSI. Okay, he's still the best now. Great.
Right.
But he didn't really, I think, fit well in the current meta that was in Summer Split. He had his struggles. There was a lot of criticism levied towards him, and coming into Worlds, he was actually one of the big question marks for T1. But he has silenced all the doubters. He is again playing at that peak level, and that is one of the big reasons that T1 is here today.
On the other side of the matchup, Jat, is of course Deft, a near 10-year journey to this World
This
Final.
play. Get caught. Well, actually, no. He's able to turn it once Barrow gives him
baited
the return, and they end up cleaning up this fight and taking a big lead. But this is the big thing to show the experience difference between the two players.
When you look internationally, it's pretty incredible what Deft has been able to do, and the fact that he was cursed for so long of not being able to get past quarters, and then within Guma's first year, he's already at World Semis. People even touting that he's probably going to make finals. Like,
must be nice.
Again, it's a difference in terms of perspective, and we now get the young gun, the hot-headed, ready to go prove himself versus the veteran, the calm, the collected Deft, looking to hold his own against the Titan and aggression that Guma's bringing to the Rift.
Of course, they're not doing it alone, Emily. We've got to fold in our supports, the X factors for these duo lanes, Keria and Barrow.
Yeah, I love both of these supports, by the way. We're going to bring up a little champion look at some of the things they both play. Like I already pointed out, Barrow actually has the most unique champion picks of any support this year at Worlds and last year at Worlds. So this is a consistent thing throughout his career. And Keria, like I said before, every champion in Keria's hands can be an engaged support. There's a reason why people call him the best support in the world. And both of these teams love the flexibility that their supports give them, and additionally, the shared champions, you'll see Soraka and Heimer there. They both love having that push in the 2v2 lane bot.
And as a Dom 1 fan, to see Beryl be like basically kicked from the roster, it was sad because I felt like that there was criticism around his performance. Would he even be able to find a strong team? The fact that he's been able to join DRX alongside Death and have the growth that he's had, it's been incredible to watch.
And we can see the opening ceremony is almost ready to start. One note about these World Finals, it's Beryl's third World Final, but those were COVID years where you didn't have the spectacle before the match that's going to just do crazy things to their nerves and their adrenaline. Faker has been here before, and the team's ability to stay calm throughout this will be critically important.
There you have it. We've run through every single one of the matchups. We've given you the stories of each of these teams over the course of the year, over the course of the histories of those organizations. On one side, we have T1, the winningest organization in the history of League of Legends. On the other side, it's Deft and DRX looking to take them down and start a dynasty of their own. With all that settled, it's time to get down to the stage for the opening ceremony presented by MasterCard.
rather fall and leave me to be with the broken one last time before I go. Hold the last burning ember, never surrender, rise into the call for the glory and the fall.
For the beat and the broken, for the lost and forsaken, let us never surrender. Now we rise unto the call.
I lied awake for days, counting heartbreaks like this. Everything I couldn't save, buried down, still half alive. This got me crawling in my skin. No one's coming out to hold me close. Pouring out the gasoline. Yeah, I've been making friends with all these ghosts, and I got nothing left to lose. Fight to the future. Fight to the fuse. Shaking and stretching, but I'm back when I'm not. Yeah, I'm a boss. Shaking my teeth in, and I won't let you go without having fun till set fire to the fuse. Well, it's not me to turn and run. Let the bitter truth in, I choked it down. Left a bad taste on my tongue, but my appetite's been growing now. I can see you crawling in your skin, but no one's coming out to hold you close. pouring out the gasoline. So say hello to all my goals. Sick and it's twisted, but I'm back when I'm at. Yeah, I'm a buzzkill, nothing to lose. Shaking my teeth in, and I won't let you go when I'm having fun till set fire to the fuse. I'm moving like a shadow, you're walking in my death zone. Breathing slow. Ooh, love the honey, love the high. Watching life fade from your eyes. Ooh, and this is not a warning. This is not a warning. I'm zeroed in on you and I'm coming for the place. And I'm about to wake up. Just try to play it cool. Echoes in your head like deja vu. I'm sick and it's twisted, but I'm back when I'm at. Yeah, I'm a buzzkill, nothing to lose. Shaking my feet, and I won't let you go when I'm having fun till set fire to the fuse. Fire to the fuse, fire to the fuse, fire to the fuse, fire to the fuse. And I won't let you go when I'm having fun till set fire to the fuse. Don't ever say it's over if I'm breathing. Racing to the moonlight and I'm speeding. I'm headed to the stars, ready to go far and start walking. Don't ever say it's over if I'm breathing. Racing to the moonlight and I'm speeding. I'm headed to the stars, ready to go far and start walking. On a mission to get high up, I know that I'ma die reaching for a life that I don't really need at all. Never listen to replies, learn the lesson from the wise. You should never take advice from somebody that ain't tried. They said I wouldn't make it out alive. They told me I would never see the rise. That's why I gotta get 'em every time. Gotta watch 'em bleed too. Don't ever say it's over if I'm breathing. Racing to the moonlight and I'm speeding. I'm headed to the stars, ready to go far, start walking. Don't ever say it's over if I'm breathing. Racing to the moonlight and I'm speeding. I'm headed to the stars, ready to go far, start walking. Been that since I came out my mama, thanking God that he never woke up. Prove 'em wrong every time till it's normal. Why worship legends when you know that you can join them? These demons don't like me, they don't like me. Likely they wanna fight me. Come on, try it out. Try me to put me down, but I ain't never cried out. Why me? Work from the wise, don't put worth inside somebody that ain't tried. They said I wouldn't make it out alive. They told me I would never see the rise. That's why I gotta kill 'em every time. Gotta watch 'em bleed too. Don't ever say it's over
San Francisco. Let me hear you! 24 teams have done battle over the past 6 weeks to bring us to this day. And of them, just 2 remain. 2 have triumphed, 2 have endured, and 2 stand at the precipice of history. They have traveled thousands of miles. They have faced all challenges. And they stand before you, ready to leave it all on the rift. While both teams hail from Korea's LCK, their roads to the Summoners Cup could not be more different. It is my distinct honor to introduce to you your 2022 League of Legends World Championship finalists. Here in the finals, for the first time as an organization, bringing new blood and old to the ultimate field of battle. Give it up for DRX! In the top lane, Kingin! Roaming the jungle, Pyosek! In the mid lane, give it up for Zeka! Woo! And in the bot lane, a near 10-long-year journey to the finals. Let me hear it for Deft! And by his side and support, Barrow! On the other side of the rift is a team that is no stranger to this stage. Back in the finals, for the first time since their dynasty was struck down in 2017, and looking to start their reign anew, it's T1! In the top lane, Zeus! In the jungle, Owner! And the king, looking to reclaim his crown and put a 4th trophy in his case! Give it up for Faker! Next to him, their AD carry. Let me hear it for Gumayusi. And finally, his support, Carrier. Chase Center. The stage is set. The stakes are clear. And this is the final score to settle. One team will leave this arena world champions. The other looking back at what could have been. Give it up one more time. San Francisco, it's DRX and T1!
Summoners Cup.
2016년 마지막으로 롤드컵이 미국에서 열렸을 때 그는 우승했습니다. 6년이 지난 지금 페이커는 어린 팀원들을 이끌고 다시 한번 우승에 도전합니다.
사실 결승전에 오기까지 굉장히 오래 걸렸고 또 우승하고 싶은 마음이 그동안 컸던 것 같아요.
첫 결승전을 앞두고 있는데 뭔가 이 결승에 오르는 상상을 너무나도 많이 했어서 아직도 뭔가 꿈꾸고 있는 것처럼 실감이 나지 않는 것 같아.
마포고등학교. 그 학교에 조용하고 수줍음 많은 두 소년들이 입학합니다. 그리고 리그 오브 레전드란 게임은 그들의 평범한 삶을 송두리째 바꾸게 됩니다.
학교에서 랭크 1등 우리 학교에 있다 이런 얘기를 들었어서 그때 처음 알게 됐던 것 같아. 그 선수보다 내가 더 잘해줘서 제일 잘하는 학생이 되고 싶다 그런 생각을 많이 했던 것 같아.
2013년도 때 데프트 선수랑 같은 게 데뷔했었는데
운명이라도 되는 듯
같은 곳에서 시작해서
다른 길을 걸어와 다시 만나게 되었습니다.
제가 엄청 어릴 때 혁경이 이제 전성기를 달리고 있을 때 제가 롤드컵 우승 꼭 시켜줄 테니까 믿고 한 번만 나랑 같이 해달라고 말했던 기억이 있는데 혁경 미안해 내가 우승할게 이해해줘.
그 누구도 달성하지 못한 네 번째 우승을 노리고 있는 고투 페이커.
우승의 달콤함, 패배의 쓰라림. 절대로 우승을 놓치지 않을 겁니다. I'm ready for the fourth.
이 둘 중 한 명의 꿈이 깨진다는 건 정말 가슴 아픈 일입니다. 또한 이 둘 중 한 명의 꿈이 이루어진다는 건 모두에게 가슴 벅찬 일일 겁니다. 데프트의 무덤은 멈출 수 분명해야 된다는
우승이라는 마지막 안무로 끝날 수 있게 혁경의 춤을 완성시켜 보도록 하겠습니다.
DRX가 영화 같은 여정을 밟아왔는데 The movie's over.
마지막 댄스가 시작됩니다.
There you have it. Welcome back, everyone, to the State Farm Analyst Desk here in the Chase Center ahead of our 2022 World Championship Final between T1 and DRX. I almost need a moment to catch my breath.
Yeah.
Made it back up here onto the analyst desk
Have
with
you
Emily
ever
Bennington.
heard a louder cheer than what Faker got?
No.
No.
I've never heard a louder cheer in a League of Legends venue.
Yeah, we've been in a lot of venues. Never have we hit a decibel level that large, and never has it preempted the name. I mean, everyone knew where we were going, but if that doesn't describe or paint a picture of Faker's legacy for you, I really don't know what will help you understand at that point.
Yeah.
I was legitimately getting emotional when
Yeah.
like the players were being called up, and you saw like the energy from the DRX players, and then when you said Def's name, and like everyone erupted, like a part of me was just like, yeah, man. Like there are so many people. We mentioned it earlier, and there are some people that are going to be like annoyed or frustrated that we keep going on about it, but they really are monoliths of our esport. Like they've been around for so long, and that feature did such a fantastic point of emphasizing where they started and where they are, and it's such an amazing story, and it's really incredible to be here to get them to see them play against each other today. Like it's both bittersweet and amazing, because you know only one will walk away the victor.
That's exactly
but
right.
you know that like this is one of the best world championships that I think we have ever had.
We've already said it. We'll say it again because it bears repeating that at the center of this matchup are two players in Faker and Deft. I think we would do a disservice to them to not walk through their stories one more time before we get to the rest of the players, the teams, and prepare for that first game of the series. Let's start on the side of Deft, Emily.
Yeah, so we already talked about his history with MVP Blue turned Samsung Blue. The fact that they got the better of White all this season and then went to Worlds. White finally beat them en route to winning the title. Then Deft goes to EDG, and prior to getting on EDG, he was known as a phenomenal team fighter, but a little bit shakier in lane. And I think the big thing that I want to stress about how dominant EDG were domestically, they also won the MSI Trophy in 2015, is that Deft, in his time with Mako, turned into not only a phenomenal team fighter, but a phenomenal laner. Now we see the series that still breaks my heart to this day that I brought up at the top of the day. Deft on KT Rolster eke out this particular win in the base race, but end up losing the series. A lot of people highlighted that as the series of that 2018 Worlds, the Inhib respawn just this past year. And again, like, they said in the preview, right? Like, this seems like something out of a movie, right? Like, Deft and his team coming out of nowhere. No one thought they would be here, beating EDG, his former team, on his birthday against Scout and Mako, who he played with. The fact that they are here, the fact that he has such a storied history, and it hasn't always been smooth sailing, right?
I mean, that moment there, right, as you talked about it, it feels so scripted. It's one of those things you see in a movie and you go, like, no, that
doesn't happen.
movie, it doesn't happen in real
unrealistic.
life. But then sports happens, and you get these incredible moments. And that inhibitor play alone, within, like, 60 seconds, my heart broke into a million pieces and then was put back together again, you know, to watch Deft then break down himself on the stage in the interview. But across from him is the most decorated player in League of Legends. So Jat, this is no small feat. You've made it all the way to the finals, but you've got to go through a god.
Yeah, Faker has 3 world titles. If he wins, he has 4. No other active player has more than 1. That's how hard it is to win a League of Legends World Championship. First one happened in North America at the 2013 World Championship. It was a massive moment. He missed Worlds in 2014 and then went on perhaps the most dominant run in League of Legends history. 2015, they win again, only dropping a single game. 2016, they have a tough semifinals and then another 5-game finals, but he wins his 3rd championship. 2017 may have been his best Worlds run ever, but he didn't win the finals. And now, 5 years later, he is back again.
What's crazy to me is I think the only accomplishment that Faker doesn't have, which no one has, is to win everything in a year.
1 year.
And he's come really close quite a few times to the record, but that's the only thing that eludes him. And even this year, he won't be able to get it. But to say that that is the only thing that he's short of is truly incredible. As the players will now be making their way to the stage as we get ever closer to our first match of the day.
Oh, absolutely. Love seeing DRX load onto the stage with plenty of cheers and fan support behind them. I think it's no secret to them that they're the underdogs, but that has been what has fueled them throughout this tournament so far. The fact that they could be that surprise team. The fact that, you know, they're taking the wins as they come and they're riding that high towards their peak play.
It was an interview that Pioshik did with Ashley Kang where he talked about the mentality shift, where coming to the World Championship with scrims going the way that they were going, like the whole atmosphere, it was getting negative. It was not healthy for the team and they were struggling to know what to do. But then the coach comes in and he says, listen, we need to stop thinking about what is possible, and we need to just start living in the moment. We need to start focusing on what is ahead of us. And if we lose, it doesn't matter. All that matters is that we do our best and we have a good time doing it. And Pioshik talked about how that was a big mental shift for him, where he no longer thought about what he was doing wrong, and instead he only thought about doing his best and making sure that as long as he put everything on the table, that he could walk away happy. And it feels to me like that all of the players have just done that They've put their heart and soul on the table, and they've shown what they can do. And so far, every single time it has been enough to get them to this point.
I think it's really interesting because in an additional interview, also with Ashley Kong, Deft talked about how one of the things he's realized at this tournament specifically, and it also could have come from that discussion with their coaches, like it's not about it's less about the result than the journey. Like it's finally him coming through and accepting like, I am like having a good time. I have accomplished a lot, and obviously still he very much wants to win his first World's Trophy. But I thought it was really interesting to hear that coming out of him as someone who has, been trying to push his way towards that World's Trophy and has yet to be successful.
And so while Def looks for his first, Faker looking for his fourth, we have to acknowledge as well, there's one other person out there looking for their fourth World Championship title, and that would be Bengi, just this time behind Faker in the coaching position.
It's so crazy to me, man. It's so
He's been
crazy
there for
to me.
all of them.
I mean, he was the magic man. There was a period in time where there were questions like when T1 was struggling, he then subbed in, and then all of a sudden the whole T1 changes. It's such an incredible history for both of these players that while Faker has been at the forefront, his loyal jungler has often been by his side.
Yeah, if Faker was Batman, Bengi was Robin. It's the greatest example of League of Legends, and they won 3 world championships together. Even in years when he was splitting time with other junglers, they'd win the games when Bengi was in there, the blank years in 2016. And even though Faker has been close so many times, it is actually another one of those fitting storybook things that coming into the World Championship, T1 makes a head coaching change, promotes Bengi to the head coach position. Many people have noticed an improvement in drafts, whether that's better collaboration or better driving from Bengi. Nobody knows, but we do know that the drafts have gotten better, and they're 3 games away from winning another World Final.
Yeah, Faker may be the GOAT, but Bengi, don't forget, he is the jungle. That was the name that was bestowed upon him.
And can we just appreciate the fact that when you called Faker's name, he's silent. And, like, obviously the arena did not go quiet, but like that, what an incredible. He's given us so many moments throughout it. My favorite one being the role that he did. But like that's just another incredible moment for Faker to add to his collection, and like it's such a momentous occasion. I cannot wait to see these guys hit the Rift.
Under 10 minutes to go, roughly 6-7 minutes. Jat, I want to start talking about the approaches of these teams diving into the series, right? Game 1 can be super important in terms of determining the direction of things like the series meta and draft.
Yeah, so I have some draft graphics that were made because we know T1 is on blue side for game 1 and DRX is on red side, and we can possibly point to what they're going to be playing because DRX in their last series had the exact same red side bans in every single one of their red side games. Now, it will depend a little bit on who your opponent is, but in this case, as you can see, Yuumi, Lucian, Caitlyn banned in every game, and also what Gen G was banning against them. Notice the Heimerdinger in all 3 games, and also the last game of the EDG series, and also large Aatrox respect. Going over to what T1 has been banning on blue side, it's going to be a lot more flexible because you don't have to deal with the Yuumi, Lucian, and Caitlyn. So if we move to T1's blue side banning, we'll also get to see that the things that are banned against them on red side are somewhat similar. So I'm not expecting Yuumi, Caitlyn to change from red side bans. That would be very, very pivotal. But this large amount of flexibility that T1 has, they can kind of go any direction they want because they're the most versatile team at the World Championship. My prediction for game 1 actually is that at least one of these T1 bans is going to be Kindred, because then the first pick Graves is something that T1 is going to try and threaten, and there would be no Kindred to answer it. So that's what I'm looking at in game 1. I don't want to get into the red side draft approach T1 here because that's going to be at least game 2 and onward, but that's what I'm expecting to see in the first game.
Vedius?
And I think that what's interesting about the Aatrox ban on blue side from T1, often people will sit there and go, well, why wouldn't they want a first pick? Especially, or even leave it open when you look at a player like Zeus, and he's only come up with counters to the matchup, in particular his very well-known Yone. But often it happens because with red side, there's room, especially a team like DRX is willing to leave that open all the way to the end. Like, this is a team that will just hold off on trying to get Kingen the best possible matchup so that they don't give Zeus an opportunity to counter pick. So it's a dangerous pick to leave open, especially when there are other things that you definitely want to prioritize in the draft, which you often see from a team like T1.
And the other super interesting thing is I know we looked at the supports, right, and their champion pools. the bot lane 2v2 is going to be very curious to me, because in terms of looking at Lucian, Caitlyn Lux is something that not all teams play competently, but both of these teams can.
Yeah.
So that'll be super interesting. The Lucian Nami, whether that crops up, will be super interesting. And then we've talked about how DRX's ban strategies really revolved around them getting a pushing bot with something like the Ashheimer if they want to as a counter, or just establish
Karma as well.
they pulled out the Ezreal Karma, which I also liked. I believe that was into Caitlyn Lux, if I remember correctly. But then it leaves, like, so if you try to target ban Zeka, doesn't work. They'll find answers elsewhere. And then having the Kindred pick into the Graves also makes this particular draft for DRX T1 really, really interesting.
Yeah, I honestly think that the bot lane for DRX is the most important draft tool resource that they have, simply because the more that they can force things like that Heimer ban, the more it opens up Zeka. Now, granted, Zeka has expanded his pool even a little bit throughout the best of fives, reaching back towards things like the Ahri and the Azir, where most people were prepared to call him a two-champ, player with the Kali and the Sylas for his earlier performances in Worlds. But I do think there's a heavy importance on the DRX bot lane, showing something to T1 to convince them either the Heimer or the Ashe, something like that needs to be on the ban table and open Zeka up a little bit more.
For sure. I think the mid lane matchup is going to be really interesting because, we talk about the expected bans, and right now there's an established meta of like really powerful picks you can't afford to let through. I was speaking with Kadro yesterday, and I was like, what if you just drop the Caitlyn ban? And he looked at me and he was like, are you joking? Do you really want to give Caitlyn over to Gumayusi? This man's literally like undefeated on the champion all year long. Like, there's a lot, and the Rise. What do you do about the Rise thing? From like, there's a lot of questions that I think we're going to get answers to as soon as we get into the game.
Quite soon, in fact. And so it is that time that we turn our attention to predictions, starting with the MasterCard fan predictions. Here at Worlds 2022, the fans have been pretty sharp in their predictions with a 70% prediction rate. Here they're giving it to T1, 76% of the vote. So over 3/4 of the fans think that it's going the way of T1. Any initial response to that? Kind of go to chalk?
About right.
You expect
Yeah,
more?
it's about right.
Yeah.
It's about right. T1
About
should
right.
be big favorites. They were dominant all year long. They faltered a little bit towards the end of the summer split, but other than that, they've been the best.
All right. From there, we turn to the talent predictions. We polled the whole team to see who they think would take it and in what series score. And see, this is a more even split than 75 or 76-23, and so quite interesting. But we also see series scores, everything from a dominant 3-0 for T1 from Max Atlas Anderson, of course, to 3-2s as well. What is quick shots?
What's interesting is...
What is going on there?
That's an alpaca.
That's an
Oh,
alpaca.
an alpaca. I'm not wearing my glasses. So I was like, is that... He just put a picture of his dog on the
I was going to say a lot of people
That's a
predicting
depth
DRX
reference.
expect the 5 games, but Dracos and Goldberg fully committed on the 3-1 dominance from DRX. That's a lot of faith.
I'm actually surprised at how many DRX predictions are here. The two people I'm looking at, though, are Atlas and Chronicler, because they're the two LCK casters, and they both said 3-0 T1.
Yeah, see, for me, it is, of course, that it is evenly split and it feels good. I'm told the teams are ready to load into our World Final. So with that, it is my absolute pleasure to hand things over to Kadro, Kobe, and Captain Flowers.
Welcome everybody to the first game of the 2022 World Final. I'm Captain Flowers, I got Kobe, I got Kadril next to me, and we're already jumping into the draft. It's Akali and Sejuani banned by T1. Meanwhile, those draft demands mentioned by chat, the Yuumi, the Lucian, those are banned out by DRX. We're expecting a Caitlyn here too.
Yeah, 2 bot lane bans already straight into the deep end of the draft. Now, DRX, do they really want to leave the Caitlyn open? The Ashe is taken away. Ashe Heimerdinger would be your pushing lane into the Caitlyn Lux. It's a bit of a risk. Graves is open, Aatrox is open. They can also pivot and first pick something like a Sylas or a Kali.
Yeah, I like it too because you can still pair a Heimerdinger with something like the Ezreal. We've seen it before with different AD carries. The Varus insta-locked here though for T1 right out of the gates. Guma has performed so well on this champion.
I wonder if we'll see something like Tristana here from Deft. I mean, the AD pool is really pinched at the moment. There's not that many setup ADs left other than Jhin, so he's gonna have to dig deep. Deft isn't that much of an Aphelios player. We saw his 3rd Draven game all time in this tournament when they were down 2-0. There's the Aatrox coming in for King, and Zeus probably going to go something like Fiora.
Yep, the Aatrox has been a staple of top lane throughout this entire tournament.
I think they also have a high priority on this Sylas that has gone through. When you ban out the Kali for one side here for T1, also raising that priority. Zeka has been a monster with it.
Yeah, I think the problem they run into with blinding Sylas is they're going to face against Faker's Rise. I wonder if Faker will blind pick it regardless, but there's the Viego coming in from Pyosik. Graves is still up as well, so I wonder if Owner wants to go in that direction.
Alrighty, T1, second part of the draft for him. Let's see what it's going to be to accompany that Varus. Remember, this AD carry is typically very vulnerable. Normally you want the support to be able to protect, be able to keep him safe. But there it is, Zeus' counter pick into the Aatrox. The Yone locked in for T1. Renata Glass going to be the last champion here for the first half for them.
The mechanics on this top lane prodigy get everyone excited for this pick. Meanwhile, Keria has won entire series for T1 with this Renata pick. Really, really great ultimates coming from him to bring that structure to their team fights. And there's the Sylas, baby. I wanted it for Zeka. He throws it down versus Faker the God. And then you can protection ban it here in the next two bans. Really nice stuff from DRX.
See the Rise ban already coming through. You think of Azir, you think of Victor as the last two remaining champs in terms of control mages that can go into this Sylas, but like you said, Yone is such a powerhouse pick for Zeus. And it was Varus that Keria was alongside in that bot lane matchup to dominate the lane.
Yep, we got the Rise banned away, the Rel banned out by T1, respecting Barrel's wide champion pool. There's the Graves banned out, recognizing that T1 still has that jungle role yet to pick. They do not want to deal with the Graves there with that Viego matchup. Ezreal will be the final ban of the draft for T1, and the Heimerdinger locked in game one for DRX.
Barrel's Heimerdinger shows its face again. We've seen time and time again that he doesn't need an Ashe by his side. We've seen Ezreal Heimerdinger come out from DRX. Now the question is, jungle pool is slightly pinched here a little bit too for Owner. Sejuani and Graves being down, Viego being picked away. What is his option for the draft? Might go for a Lee Sin by the looks of it. A lot of melee champs, so can't find those kicks.
You love to see it. The style always possible to come out there with the Lee Sin. And Faker. What's it gonna be? Azir comes down again. Now, okay, so AD carry here, I'm thinking Misfortune for Deft if you go by what has been most played, but do they have something secret?
That's a good question. You think of Misfortune, you think of Jhin. Kalista's up, but Kalista Heimerdinger doesn't sound the strongest. Sivir Heimerdinger, maybe not the best up against Azir with the long range. So I think something that can either go in or something that can set up. Pushing lane is all the DRX need here in the bot side. Sivir is going to be the answer. A bit short ranged against the Azir, but Deft confident enough that that champion can get the push and keep the push in the mid game.
When you're thinking of push, when you're thinking of AD carries, Sivir's always the one that first comes to mind for me, especially when you have these solo laners that have the capability of being a side lane threat, of being a 1v1 monster. Sivir to clear the wave feels great.
Do you know what's beautiful about these two comps? There's no front line. This is all just an Armageddon in team fights. If anyone can connect spells, there is so much follow-up from both sides, especially on T1.
The front line is your ability to outplay. Yep. That's it. It's not a health bar, it's your mechanics.
Which puts a lot more emphasis on these key big abilities. We mentioned, as soon as Keria locked in the Renata, that's something that can bring some structure to your team fight. If you get locked up in just a moment of CC, there's so much damage on both of these teams. Boom, instantly taken down. So much is going to come down to execution.
There is a lot of damage, and I think both compositions diving into the opposing team's composition just looks really tricky, right? Renata, Azir in terms of pushback and hostile takeover. The Heimerdinger committing into a Heimerdinger Sivir seems tough. Getting on top of them is great, yes, but the damage output, like you talked about, Kobe, is extremely high.
And we have two big signature picks in this matchup. Zeus, of course, on his Yone, one of those melee champs that's going to have to navigate those difficult team fights. And Zeka, the breakout star of Worlds 2022, on his Sylas.
Yeah. Honestly, for me, he has been the individual standout of the entire tournament. He has been turning heads since play-ins.
He really has.
A big part of what got DRX here was his mastery of the current meta, of that melee matchup with Sylas with the Kali taking turn.
Here we go then, on to Summoner's Rift for game one of the Worlds Finals. It's been 3,318 days since Faker won his first World Championship. 1,050 games, 190 patches, and he's looking for another.
It's been a damn long time, but they're back here and ready to go. The arena is packed. The players are locked and loaded, and T1 and DRX are ready for their first conflict.
What an epic finals here. Everyone waiting on the edge of their seats for the greatest organization in the history of League of Legends, T1 and Faker versus DRX, the greatest underdog run in Worlds history.
Play-ins to Worlds Finals. They've just been scaling throughout the entire tournament. Def taking down so many of his former teammates. DRX finding ways to topple teams like EDG. And now just a very standard level 1 here. Ward there in the river. The pink placed by Pyosik goes for the normal health pot. Just gives a little bit of vision to Zeka to make sure he's safe in the early stages.
And definitely looking at junglers both starting bottom sides because the top lane matchup is so volatile. Zeus is one of those few top laners that people have confidence to pick these sort of skill matchups into with that Yone on the top side. And we want to see if Pyosik or Owner will get there first to influence it. This can really snowball and damage the minion wave control afterwards.
All right, Pyosik gonna go ahead, clear out that Gromp second. Just go ahead, make sure he's maximizing that EXP. Just going to continue pathing towards that top side, I would believe. Faker versus Zeka. There's going to be a lot of conversations about this matchup throughout the entirety of the series, I guarantee it. Tri-lane shot showing us that Zeus has that push here in the top lane. Meanwhile, bottom side, it's DRX taking early command of the wave.
Definitely is. And of course, T1 is 8-0 against DRX this year. DRX haven't even taken a single game in the best of threes, and every single time in those games, T1 have had responses to what DRX have line picked. You know, you think back to even in spring round 1, they played Tryndamere into Corki, Vex into Ahri, Veigar into Ryze. So many examples, but Pyosik is now looking around mid. He's done his 3 bot side camps looking for Faker. Doesn't have any, he might have to flash the stun.
Pyosik coming in with Spectral Maw. Faker gets away. Nicely flashed from that. And as we have a little bit of early action here, remember the Prime Gaming is giving away 150,000 RP to several lucky fans every single day of this competition. And we're almost done. So head on over to PrimeGamingWorld22.com to enter and make sure you put in today's secret code to get those in.
I love this early pass from Pyosik because it doesn't take much of his time at all. I think it's a very valuable summoner spell, as well as Owner now walking over the ward that he left behind. Really good manipulation of information here. Red buff is going to be pulled off since they saw him on the ward.
Yeah, Pyosik knows that Owner's on the way. Might have to reset the red buff here and call his solo lane. They don't really have any push, so Owner's just going to go over to the Crux instead. Pyosik very aware of that happening, so he's going to try to push him back as well. Doesn't want to give up any of these camps. Owner wants to keep the pressure. Zeus is first to the move.
I won.
Nicely done. Owner's faster on the smite. Pyosik's gonna have to walk away now. Zeus commanding control over the wave, crashing it into the turret. Means he can back up his jungler so Owner can stick around and secure more of the smaller Crux.
And actually, it was Pyosik who used the smite, and Owner got it with a little bit of damage there. So Owner now has smite advantage for a little bit over Pyosik, and he's got a ward on the red buff. He could just steal it.
Yeah, that ward is perfect.
Pyosik has to delay for a smite.
He's scared of Owner, and he will spot him out on the way. He's going to try to reset it again. You have to imagine no push in mid lane for Zeka. Pulls it in the bush. And actually looks like he'll be able to finish it out of vision.
Nicely done. Right back in on the other side of the red to prevent any further patience loss. He doesn't even have to smite it anymore. They see Owner on top of the ward. They know he's no longer contesting this, but he is still looking into the enemy jungle. Pyosik just going to back out. There's nothing left to fight for.
And this is the trade-off of the mid gank. You got a flash, you lost Krugs. Not the end of the world, did pick up a couple of them and managed to get his red. Now he's going to move down towards his bot crab. Second respawn's coming in. Still pressure a lot here for Faker in mid. Zeka has the TP if he needs it. Pyosik has flash to gap close onto Faker. Faker might have to be careful in these next couple of minutes.
Not a lot of mana to work with here on Zeka with the Sylas. He's playing nice and safe. We'll see if Pyosik can find an angle here. Faker's still pretty far forward. Flash! Spectral Maw! And first blood over to Zeka!
Zeka, the star here, funneled again. Pyosik, multiple ganks, returns before the flash gets back up. As you said, instantly flashes in there for the stun. They get their kill, and they get the money exactly where they want it. This Sylas skills so well and can have some kill pressure.
This is going to be a huge problem for T1 in the mid game. Zeus forced to flash away. These solo lanes going in favor of DRX. It's Kingen and Pyosik off to a great start. These two players were last place in the LCK last year in summer, and now they're in a Worlds Finals, and they're already off to a great start.
And I love their story with Kingen And Zeka, as we have
Def trade on bottom
Let's
side.
go.
Boys, we might not have the time for any story because Def is about to drop his
no.
own lane, but he heals through it. Carry an Owner, still chasing after. Owner wants to land this.
Yes.
There's a little bit more damage coming out from Carry a flash into the Tempest to make it happen. As Zeka goes in with a stolen ulti, he'll shuffle Faker right on back. But Owner's on the way, so Zeka can't do any more.
Beautiful play there from Owner and Carrier chasing down on bottom side, and because they get Death down, they get supremacy over the river. Knowing that, Zeka cannot chase Faker any further into it. What an explosive start.
Beryl just going to help Zeka get a little bit of vision around mid there. Did get the first base off as Keria was looking for depth. A lot of summoners blown across the board. Zeka ideally wants to crash his wave in. Doesn't have the flash and Faker has the shuffle. Needs to respect it and back away. A lot of early action.
Yeah, Faker's still having that shuffle because remember, he was level 5 when Zeka engaged on him with a stolen ulti. Let's now take another look at what happened bottom. Keria, nicely done there, using E to pop the shield before the handshake.
Gets the shield off and then pulls Deft back in. Wanted to make sure the wave crashed there, Deft, and Keria stopped him in his tracks. His former teammate almost managed to find the solo kill. And Owner right behind Keria makes sure he's there to back him up. E-Flash comes in. Double flash expended for that kill.
Keria is so good, so incredibly good. This support prodigy from rank 1 actually started with Death on DRX as well, getting the kill there, but now it's Dragon started up for Pyosik and DRX, and they should be able to finish it. No Lee Sin around means no attempt at a smite steal.
Who needs smite when you got an arrow? Gumayusi kick.
Bullseye for Gumayusi, picks up the dragon. Pyosik doesn't even use the smite. All this bot pressure for DRX, and then Pyosik coming down, having the mid push and starting up that Drake backfires.
And this just reminds you of how T1 got here to finals. It was bottom different. Oh. My goodness. Keria takes down Def, then immediately afterwards, Guma's able to snipe away the objective as well. This T1 bottom lane is the T1 bottom lane that was promised originally. Best in the world.
Right, these guys stumbled at MSI after an incredible run in spring. In summer, it's been about recovery. And when I look back at their semifinal they played this past weekend against JDG, it was the bot diff that really stood out.
It really was, and Owner's hovering around there now, making sure they have some kind of vision to push out Deft with no flashes, an easy setup with a level 6 Lee Sin. Owner's just trying to juggle this mid and bot push to make sure they can control this bot side river, but with Herald up, Kingan's going to start that one top push in favor of DRX. Zeus no flash. Zeka is ready to move across. Beryl is on his way up. Will be first to the top side river. How does T1 dissect this fight? They're looking for Kingan.
Owner throws out the cube, but he's not going to find it. Zeka jumps in. Owner's ready to retreat back to his own teammate. Zeus contesting 1v2. Owner and Faker ready to join in, but Beryl's made his way into the fight. Owner jumps in. It's secured by DRX. Now the fight breaks out. Pyosik coming right back in. T1 with a lot of moves. Zeka tries to get the kill, but he won't be able to secure it. Zeus charges forward, but not finding another kill just yet. It is T1. They lose the objective, they get the kill, and they stop the eye from being picked up.
Yep, their smite was a little bit early. 95 health left on that Rift Herald. So DRX, they get the 300 gold for getting the Rift Herald, but Faker sweeps in, the Azir sweep back, allows them to pick up the kill, and Owner surviving there on the backside also means they get priority on the map. So they're able to deny that eyeball you're talking about, as well as Faker getting an extra turret plate.
So let's look at that again. Goes in, Owner with the Q2 smite, 95 HP, and then Pyosik picks it up. It's Zeus who gets the knock up onto Pyosik. The shuffle into the Zeus ult actually catches 3 of them. Beryl's not level 6, so he can't put down the big turret. Zeus confident enough to chase through, and like you said, kill to T1. Pushing lanes for T1 with plates means it's in their favor this play.
I love the fact that we got a fight that big early on in game 1. It bodes very well for the series. T1 up about 700 gold now, just shy of 10 minutes into the game. They've got a 1-kill lead. They've got that stolen Drake, but we're probably not going to see any more big fights for another 2 minutes until the next Drake spawns. Total gold on the left side of your screen. It's Zeka and Gumayusi pulling out in front.
And Keria, man, in the last fight as well, sniping him again with another handshake to push them together to set up that kill. Getting a last hit for himself as well. Will be a fairly rich Renata, but river control goes over to DRX and they secure the crab.
It's all about bot push really for DRX. Kingan's winning in isolation, and Zeka needs some kind of vision to threaten Faker to make sure that he can't push into his tower, keep him under his tower. Zeka has that looming threat of the second he lands a chain, he can push him back into Pyosik. It's all about mid-bot side here for both these teams.
And you saw the way Zeka just used the spells, throwing out the E2, following it immediately with the R. If that E2 connects, boom, you just shuffle him right back into the lane. As we pan back topside, and Zeus is still in control. Owner coming up through the crushes now.
Yeah, with all the focus on the other side with these little skirmishes, Zeus has been able to get himself that CS lead with his Yone counter pick, and Owner does have Flash and Lee Sin kick available. They're going to look for the knockup.
I wonder if they can execute this dive. Zeka has TP, so the longer this play goes on, the more it'll backfire. I think they're hoping that Kingen takes a trade into Zeus and looks for a kill. Kingen showing a lot of respect, so no play to be made there, Owner. T1 could have broken the entire game open by getting that kill, heralding the top tower. Zeus will be unlocked on the map, but Zeka's going to TP back mid, start contesting these waves.
And you can see the timing for Owner. He does not want to waste any further seconds on top side because Dragon is respawning. So they set themselves up for that possible counterplay up on top side or a dive if there's a play ready, but they don't want to overinvest and waste time with an objective coming right up. So get back down to bottom.
30 seconds on that Dragon respawn, but it's Pyosik who's gone up towards his Krugs, and Keria has retaken the bot side vision, allowing Faker to push in this mid wave and then move towards the bot side to feel safe. They should be able to secure that Dragon pretty handily.
Alrighty, we've still got the stolen Azir ultimate on Zeka as well. There's a ton of playmaking potential here on either side. Back to what you guys were talking about in the draft. The lack of front lines is going to be very heavily felt once we get into more of these big team fights. And it's T1 with control over the river as the Drake spawn.
Another big thing with T1 getting control of that river like you're talking about is the Renata ults that can come from Keria. He can cut off these entrances with the wide crowd control that is afforded to him. Let's see about it though. DRX, they bully them off.
Wow. DRX showing up, forcing T1 back a little bit. Zeka's here on the play. The second Drake stolen. Owner gets it, he gets away. Zeka and the rest of DRX, they won't have a whole lot more to do, but that is 2 Drakes to nothing now for T1.
Ocean Soul for T1 as well if they look forwards to the next couple of Dragons. DRX very late to this play. They managed to find an avenue in. It did turn into a little bit of a 50-50, but T1 had really good positioning and setup in terms of vision before they had arrived. Still a little bit of pressure on this bot side as Zeka is the one catching bot wave and Deft has moved towards mid.
Yeah, Pyosik coming down the river too. I love both these junglers, the confidence. Even after the 95 health left on Riftfield, Owner says, don't worry, I got this one. Pyosik with the gank onto Keria gets at least his flash.
Doesn't follow through the ult, a little bit scared of Owner. And if you watch DRX versus T1 the majority of this year, it's just been a slow bleed out for DRX. T1 had better macro in the regular season, they had more pushing lanes, they had more options to play for, and it was just a slow and steady loss every single time for DRX, barring the last time that they faced each other in round 2 of Summer, where DRX actually had a pretty good gold lead and a massive kill lead, but it was T1's macro that brought them back into this, and it's DRX's macro that has improved so much in this international tournament.
And talking about macro, that's the other thing that really stood out for me about T1 in their semifinal last weekend. It was the bot tiff, and it was the decisions being made as a team, not just later on, but early too, to outmaneuver JDG and constantly find advantages.
Yeah, I think T1 are one of the best in the world. In fact, probably the best in the world now at pushing these leads. When you get this gold lead, to be able to set up on the next objective, Owner comes top again, Zeus goes in, gets his turret plate, and Rift Herald number 2 about to arrive.
But remember, Rift Herald number 1, despite the fact that there was a fight over this and a lot of players were there, the eyeball was never claimed. We never got to see that Herald used. So this second one, I'm hoping we get some more results from.
Lots of lane shifts coming in here. DRX have sent their jungle support up towards topside for King and Deft to stay in mid, so I wonder if DRX just want to break the laning phase right now and put the Sivir in mid, put the Heimer towards mid and start pushing in these waves, building towards those 2 items so you can control the map a little bit better.
Yeah, it's always so nice to be able to get mid-push when you're looking at the next spawns of the objectives, so then you can either move in to this Herald first, or once Dragon comes up, of course, you can do the exact same thing from the other side, and T1, get it first.
Spawn's coming through. T1's going to start it up, and Zeka's moving his way towards mid. He doesn't have the TP, and Faker does. That allows him to stay in the lane. DRX know this has been started. The question is, are they going to contest it? This is very similar to the Dragon, where they're just arriving a little bit too late.
Yeah, T1, like clockwork, going to these neutral objectives, continually posing this question to DRX, and they get this one without a fight.
The gold lead continues to build. 1,500 now, 15 minutes into the game for the second seed from the LCK. as Faker gets away from the Everfrost there of Zeka, the extra playmaking potential. Somewhat countered by the fact that Faker does have Crown of the Shattered Queen, going to make it harder to kill him when they go in. And especially considering the squishy nature of both compositions, I like this purchase from Faker.
Definitely agree, and T1 showing why a lot of people had them favorites in this matchup here. The lane phase, very oppressive from them, and being able to consistently push the tempo.
Oner still hovering around this top side. Doesn't look like they're giving much resources to Faker. He has TP and they want to look for a play through top. Kingen seems to be the target for them. Oner is actually going to base and move towards mid, you have to expect. So very stock standard swap of lane phases here, just moving around pieces on the map to try to control vision around mid. No neutral objectives just yet.
Well, the big thing I'm looking at is we have solo laners hitting their level 11, second level ultimate power spikes here. That means that the dive, the burst potential is really starting to get high. So I'm expecting to see more of these plays. I'm expecting to see more of these roams. I'm expecting to start seeing some dives and a little bit of testing the water to see if they can just skill check their opponents.
And T1 are the ones who can pull the trigger first. They have that Herald. They probably want to put it towards mid or top. I mean, every single tower is incredibly low. They're having push in all of these 3 lanes, which just allows them to control this map so well. DRX grouping up now, trying to find an avenue to get a little bit of vision. Maybe they can look for a pick. Keria still not having that flash up. There's a ward around him, but Oner's ready to cover.
Yeah, I think their biggest advantage they could set up for themselves here, DRX, is trying to establish that vision control over the dragon before it spawns, because T1, since they got that Rift Herald number 2 so late, they can sync up the activation of the second Rift Herald here with the spawn of this dragon. You know, make a hard push first to gain priority on mid, then slip down to the objective. Heimerdinger does so well though, this pick that has been so fun throughout Worlds, when your opponents have to come face check you into brush, and that's what Beryl is trying to accomplish.
Yeah, you see the turrets being placed, wards being put down. My eyes are on Zeka for this next fight. It would be a third dragon for T1. Of course, Ocean Soul points. DRX first ones in the river. Zeka has a great position to look for.
Zeus walking down.
Remember, Zeka has no stolen ultimate right now, so that's a big deal. What's he going to steal? When is he going to steal it? Making the right choice goes a long way. First Herald of the game summoned up here in mid lane. This will be the first turret killed by either side, and it's mid lane tier 1 dropping. T1 claiming.
They pick up the tower and they get the wave in, but it doesn't give them an avenue into this dragon because Kingen TP bot and Zeus needs to respond. It's going to be a dance around vision here as Faker is the first one to step up. Oner's going towards midwave. Kingen will find the bot lane of T1.
Oh, that's not where they want to be going. DRX, they're ready to go. Can they survive? No. Keria will fall, but he's traded back for Zeka. A 1-for-1 that should favor T1.
That was a fantastic setup for DRX. So a little bit of a backfire to go 1-for-1. A couple ultimates used from T1. DRX the same. Dragon is still up, but DRX still looking for a pick. They're hoping that Gumayusi walks back through this tribe, which I think T1 thought they had to go through bot lane there.
And look at this. Faker goes mid to put up the Azir turret, try and get his mid priority that way, and then he can come right over. Remember, Gumayusi as well stole the other dragon. Can he fish around here? They've got vision inside the dragon pit and teleport coming right out.
All right, teleport from Zeus. Bottom lane, Kingen and Beryl gonna keep him back. Zeus ready to try to outplay here with a Soul Unbound. Immediately resets his position. His job was to distract, and distract he did. Drake secured as Faker goes in. Deft is on the run. 40% HP. Ready for the re-engage. Fate sealed, and Deft is down. Faker gets the kill, and T1 are ready to go.
T1 so precise, just dominating this game. Zeus, magnificent sleight of hand on the bottom side, but they're not done yet. Kingen looking for the snipe onto Faker. He just walks out of the Inferno Chains and goes for it.
Oh, but Faker goes back in. Faker gets Beryl, and T1's ready for more. Pioshik's on the run, but the Ruined King will barely survive. Oner walks away, and now T1 might just pay for it. Kingen's ready to chase down Guma even further. Zeus coming around from the side. Kingen backing away. T1 getting another. Faker getting another. Zeka running home. Oh, it's
turning into a slaughter in game one, boys. 20 minutes here, and T1 have 3 Drakes as well as the gold lead.
Huge swing of gold now for T1. Massive fight around the Dragon. They played it with so much patience. There was never a moment where they felt rushed or pressured to just take a fight. All of a sudden, they're just playing through waves, making sure they have numbers advantage. They sneak it away under DRX's nose. Then DRX kind of think they have to get into this fight, and T1 are the ones who stand tall.
Playing with supreme confidence. Zeus here, in his first year, on the international stage. The sleight of hand to distract DRX down to the bottom side. Then Faker says, we collapse on them, pull off the pincer.
And this is the Sivir, right? Not very good range in terms of hitting back. The Azir is just damaging your health bar. Deft falls, and then T1 look for another player. We've got a fight on live.
We've already got that play right now. Pyosik on the run, but he'll run nowhere. Faker goes on a rampage, and Beryl goes down with him. T1 find 2, they find the jungler, and they find their way to the Baron.
There's a reason why T1 is undefeated versus DRX. They're outclassing them in every single role right now, and T1 will pick up that Baron just shy of 21 minutes in the game.
Absolute domination here. The objective bounties are already up. The game signaling just how far ahead T1 are. And they picked right up where they left off. This team, their ascent has been so fun to watch. Consistently outplaying people in draft, in mechanics, on the stage, pressing these objectives at every turn.
Zeus and Kingen getting into a bit of a 1v1 here, but Zeka's also nearby. Faker ready to respond too. Kingen is low, and Zeus takes the kill. Now with the full retreat coming out, Zeka is gonna whip the shuffle, and T1 just has to wait it out. They'll take out these minions. Zeka trying to find any sort of a way to get out of this one, but it ain't gonna happen. No, sir. Faker unstoppable.
I especially love the story. Well, never mind. Owner's on Pyosik.
We don't have time for stories. Owner looking for another. Finds the R, finds the Q, finds 2. There it is. Owner picks up the kill.
The only story here is that DRX's history after game 1. T1 are just dominating them. And you can't fault DRX because they have to find picks. T1 have a Baron buff. They're going to start the siege with Azir and Varus. They can go for 1-4 with Zeus on the Yone. They tried to make the picks happen, but T1 are very aware of their plans.
T1 ready to break the base in half. The first inhibitor turret is gone. Inhibitor, a little bit more. There we go, that'll get him across the line. But DRX comes in with a TP. T1 has the Azir turret. The Sun Disc can protect them. Zeka's looking for the angle. He steals the Fate Sealed away from Zeus. Beryl gonna throw down these turrets, but DRX can't find the opportunity they're looking for, and T1 will escape.
They can't punish the siege. They tried their best with the TP, but that Azir tower is just too much of a threat to go for a 5v5 underneath their tower with this gold deficit. This is DRX looking for the pick onto Zeus to stop the 1-4 on a side lane, but Faker's there to respond. He knows that their only plan and their only play is killing the top laner of T1. Faker making sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, Zeus with a slight step back here, dodging away from the stolen Azir ultimate himself too. This player, and T1 story with them, having confidence in their own. Never mind.
Carrier, that's not where you want to be, buddy. Death goes on a killing spree. There's a second, a shutdown. DRX get 2 for nothing.
20 seconds on the Dragon spawn as well. That will be the soul of T1, but look at Faker. He's just barreling down mid lane, looking for another inhibitor. Looks like 2 will fall because all of DRX are staying. Bases are coming in, but Zeka doesn't have the TP. It's Owner and Gumayusi who will play patiently, and Faker with the TP coming back up soon means that T1 might be able to match the numbers around this Dragon fight.
Faker in mid lane, taking out the inhib. DRX immediately jumping onto the Drake. They want to stop this soul by any means possible. Owner's coming in. Sonic wave over the wall. Owner's still waiting for it. Not going to happen. Objective bounty over to DRX, but now they got to be ready to run. They've got to exfiltrate, and T1 will not pursue.
Even though it really hurts to give up your mid inhibitor to Faker there, you have to stop this soul here for DRX. You also get the objective bounty shutdown, trying to make some of this gold deficit up.
They need a couple more item spikes. You can see Kingen just picked up the Death's Dance, but it's Infinity Edge on Death. The 3-item Sivir that DRX need to look towards. Level 14 right now, actually ahead of Gumayusi in terms of levels. So the Sivir will keep the wave clear going on that top and mid inhibitor. T1 needs to start pressuring the map a little bit harder, put their foot on the gas and look for this bot tier 2.
Yep, from T1's perspective, there is one lane to go to with supers going in both mid and top lane. Just group up on bottom side, pressure it in, continue to take objectives. Don't let DRX farm comfortably.
DRX gonna hold this, but Owner actually fails the kick flash there. Zeka just dashes backwards the second the jungler of T1 hops over the wall.
And that's very important. DRX cannot afford to just lose a man for nothing here. A TP onto the Heimer turret. Renata ulti finds him, but he runs backwards to berserkedly attack his own team. He still gets away, but that's the final tier 2 turret falling on the side of DRX. T1 maintains a 7,500 gold lead with less than 2 minutes until Baron respawns.
And I think sieging that bot tier 3 for the final inhibitor is going to be a bit tough for T1 at the moment. 1 minute 30 seconds, like you said, Flowers, on that Baron. That's going to be the next threat for T1. A little bit of topside vision, keep that mid push, have Zeus on a side lane perhaps depending on his TP timer, and then look to force that Baron, force DRX to walk into you.
And if we're looking at the hope for the comeback for DRX, the underdog story of the entire tournament, you see it right there. Deft has completed the Infinity Edge. This is their hope, the Sivir. Late game farming, trying to annihilate these minion waves. See if they can pull out a team fight. Meanwhile, big objective is to keep vision control over your red quadrant of your jungle so that you don't get into very dangerous Baron scenarios. It comes up in only 57 seconds.
Trying to deny that red buff there, but DRX smartly pull it back. You're absolutely right there, Kobe. It's the Sivir of Deft that needs to find the damage in the fights. He's a little bit outranged by Faker Azir, who has 3 items complete, building towards that Rabadon. Zeus also picked up his 3-item spike. DRX need to find some kind of vision around this Baron and juggle the waves while they do so.
T1 in control of this game from the very start. 30 seconds until the Baron spawns. Kingen gonna clear out some of the vision here. DRX must be very careful. A single misstep will give away this Baron and any hope left in this game.
Mount T1 right there. Can DRX scale that mountain? It's going to be a difficult next 5 minutes for them. Baron coming up in only 10 seconds, and you see how ferociously they're fighting over the vision just to have a safe place to check from.
They have 1 blue orb left on Deft. That'll be an emergency usage in case they lose all vision. And right now they can't see it. T1 are starting it up with their AD carry on top. Owner can jump over the wall very quickly. Where's the blue orb from Deft? He still has it, I think, up. He is going to pop it over the wall. They
There's no time. There's no time. T1 already gets the bear.
Now the siege will come in on that bot tier 3. You can see the pings on that bot side of the map already for T1. They know the easy way to win this one is just to push in these lanes, go towards bot, try to take that final inhibitor. DRX will be forced to fight them underneath their tower.
And T1, now with the Baron buff, you have the luxury of going 1-3-1, pushing all lanes in, getting these inhibitors as they're respawning. Zeus already has been allocated up to that top lane. Push it in. This Yone, so oppressive. DRX gonna have to fight on all sides right now.
DRX is caught in such a difficult position here in this game. They have to weather a storm that is barreling towards this bottom side, barreling towards their last remaining inhibitor turret.
Sometimes the best hope when you're in a position like this, assaulted on all sides, just Sivir ult and go attack one of them as quickly as you can, because the more time you give T1, the more damage they do.
Well, it's T1 on the offensive. 3 men bottom, 1 man in each other lane. Zeus leading the charge towards that exposed inhibitor in top. Faker maintaining pressure in mid. Kuma's got all the push power in the world here in bottom. Last standing inhibitor turret, that one's going to fall. Kuma can just go ahead, clear that out, no problem. Zeus taking out the other inhibitor there in top lane. 2 more autos will do it. He'll just let the minions take it out. Triple in-hit gain for T1.
That's got to be the nail in the coffin for DRX. They have a small 30-second to 1 minute window before these super minions will pile in, and the soul is spawning for T1.
Yeah.
So are they going to run down towards this Dragon Pit and fight it, or are they just going to give everything up? Gumayusi even tried to use the ult onto Deft. Spell shield came through, and even with that ultimate down, DRX didn't feel confident enough to find an engage.
DRX are in such a tough spot, but they have been in so many other tough spots, and they have come back in a lot of them. They had not beaten Gen G either, and ended up coming back in that series. T1 will finish up their soul, and then they will march down mid lane to finish this game 1 up.
Well, there is also less than 1 minute remaining until Baron spawns again. If T1 want to play this as safely and as surely as possible, they will make their way over to that pit. They will secure that objective, and then they will push for the win. That's the remaining timer on the Baron. I'm trolling you guys. That's just my bad. I was checking to see if you're paying attention. But they have it for another 45 seconds. They can take out this inhib that has just respawned and then leave DRX still in the same impossible position.
And the Emperor TP's back with a Rabadon's death cap. This Azir is going to do so much damage. Zeus might even find an engage already.
Zeus looking for it. Fate sealed. Only going to find one. Kingen getting away for now. Owner still looking for the angle. Flash kick is available. DRX fully in defensive position now as Barrel's only got 40% HP. T1 looking for any angle. All they got to do is find one. An 8,000 gold lead is definitely enough to end this game. Minion wave making its way up. Owner threatens the engage. Chains of corruption going out. Zeka looking for the play, but Owner goes golden. He's going to stay alive for now, backing up yet again. Nexus turrets. First one's about to die. A little bit of HP, still keeping it around. Zeka's only at 1/4 health. He has to heal. Pioshik eats the Sonic Wave. No resonating strike just yet. DRX are out of turrets and out of time. T1 still looking for the end. Still looking to keep going. The Nexus is all that remains.
I love how Owner keeps checking them, seeing if they will flinch, jumping in on the Lee Sin, but not going for the flash play. And here comes the end.
Zeus looks for Q3. Zeka goes in with a stolen Azir ulti, but it ain't gonna do a whole lot. They still got a little bit of damage, but it is not enough. Barrel's gonna die, Depth is gonna die. T1 will find the fight and find the win in game one.
Clean, calm, and collected. The well-oiled machine of T1 strikes again. Very similar game to the DRX Gen G series in that game one, where it was just clean from the get-go. Out skirmishing, out setting up in terms of objectives and vision. That man on your screen right there on the Azir, just dishing out so much damage, was never really touched in these fights.
You can say that again. Every T1 member clapping in this game number one, establishing the dominance here right from the get-go.
We got to see individual skill, we got to see team skill, we got to see a couple of sick dragon steals. T1 came to play, my friends, and DRX is going to have to find an answer for what they just showed us.
Objective spawns, T1 are at it. They take it away.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
I think DRX were just arriving way too late, especially towards that second dragon, second herald spawn. By the time they got there, it was gone, and they didn't even cross map or plan ahead and think, let's go try trade something on the other side of the map. Let's try to find the objective. Oh, we arrived too late, so DRX need to rethink the way they approach these games.
And as DRX continue their battle against the T1 Empire, check out their pick, What We Left Behind, as the song that represents their playstyle on the official LOL playlist on Spotify. Take a listen and join us over at the State Farm Analyst.
Thank you so much, Captain Flowers. Game one is in the books, and it's T1 that draws a first blood. Almost so fitting for the story that we've built up for these two teams, that they're the ones to kind of set the pace, it seems, in this best of five.
Yeah, they are the favorites coming in. They also had blue side, which is definitely a favored side. We went over the drafts beforehand where we thought DRX was going to have generally lock bans when they're on red side. They did. Strangely enough, not a ton of huge surprises here, especially when you consider DRX also got slammed in game one of their semifinal against Gen G.
I'm just happy that in game one, the blood gods were satisfied, right? We started off the game with both teams going for each other's throats. Like, it was beautiful, especially with Pioshik investing into the early gank mid, into the repeat gank mid, and then we saw a bit of a blunder from Def from the bot side, but both teams were going toe-to-toe all in the early game.
And not just in the play, though. I feel like in Champ Select as well, Emily, bringing out the Yone for Zeus, that is a statement right there by T1.
All right, so we touched upon this a bit in draft, but here are Zeus's career Yone stats. You'll notice that he is undefeated on this champion. This includes the game that we just saw. And the most important thing is not only that Zeus can absolutely pop off on this specific champion, but that you will see they can leave the Aatrox up, which Jet touched upon briefly, and have this counter in their back pocket. So this is where things kind of go pretty wrong for them. Faker comes in. The Yone, Zeus just bullies them out. And obviously DRX really wanted this. They committed to Herald. This is kind of where he starts snowballing. And to have this kind of answer for Aatrox, which is such a strong champion, has been taking over so many drafts, is absolutely a massive win for T1.
I find that his ultimates are always impactful. That's the craziest thing to me in the way in which he transitions that pressure across the map. But of course, when it came to the early game, it wasn't really all about Zeus. He was kind of left isolated in the top. We saw a lot of aggression in the early game, in particular in the mid lane. And you can see here, Def just wants to get this underneath the tower, but incredible mechanical execution from Carrier, popping the spell shield with the shield of his own, and then getting the handshake to lock him in and secure this kill. Def doing what he can to try and escape, but ending up trading his life as well. And this kind of set the benchmark in terms of the early game, in terms of these early skirmishes. You could see the clear game plan from DRX was get Zeka into a position where he could dominate in the side lane, because he was really going to be the only one that could handle Zeus' pressure on the Yone. And if they couldn't find these early leads, scaling was going to be a problem. But the moment that you lose Def that early on, bot lane then becomes this big sinkhole that you then have to be very difficult to deal with. And then we saw this constant push in mid and top for T1 that DRX never really could shut down.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that kind of is going to fly under the radar a bit is even when DRX did have that bot pushing pressure, they were not able to get that first Drake as well because of the Varus Q that ended up stealing it away. So another little...
Which did more damage than Smite, by the way, the empowered Varus Q, which is more damage than Smite.
Yeah, that's absolutely wild. And it set, again, it kind of, it sped the clock up, right?
Yeah.
It made that soul point come that much sooner for T1 and would definitely apply the pressure to DRX. But you mentioned right off the top, Vedius, that it was DRX putting pressure on Faker in the mid lane early, and his ability to both sustain that pressure, recover from it, and then do more is why he gets our 1+ OP player of the game for this very first game in our championship final.
And I love the confidence that we saw from Faker. I'm glad that we're getting this play out as well. Well, because later on, he's just going to get an incredible kill onto Beryl and then walk away with his life. But his positioning in the team fights was fantastic. Even after the early pressure that was thrown down onto him, he was able to bounce back. And this is the play that I was talking about. This setup, this confidence, it was effectively a 1 versus 3 to walk away with this kill. Beautiful from the GOAT.
And I really do think part of it is because he has been here before. If he wins 2 more games, he will be a 4-time world champion. No other player has won more than one. Right? Beryl is also in many world championships, but in terms of his ability to perform around on the stage, it is so far over any other player ever that he will have these type of performances in the early games when other players are still working out the nerves.
And the coolest thing, I think, is to see the aggression coming out of Faker, right? And the decisiveness. It's something he's always had, but when we talk about this T1 team, I feel like people still, if they haven't watched them in LCK, always think, oh, they're going to be slow, they're going to be boring, and this team in particular...
Oh my god, that's so brilliant.
We like joked how it's like Faker and the Zoomers, but they are aggressive. They want to outplay you with their mechanics, and to see Faker included in that is amazing.
Now, Jet, I want to pull up the draft from this very game, but as we talk about, you know, not only this draft, but looking forward to game number 2.
Yeah, DRX is going to flip sides because the Yuumi bans and the fact that they're pretty locked on this side is crazy. The thing that worked in this draft, I think, was the Varus first pick, as well as the Yone counter to Aatrox, because that immediately gave them likely pile in 2 lanes. DRX hasn't played that many team comps at this Worlds that are like traditional late game scaling team comps. They need to win lane. T1 took that away from them in this draft. So with DRX going blue side, they're going to be trying to power pick, I think, their bot lane pile and go from there.
I think that DRX overall walked away from this draft pretty happy with what they got for themselves. But in retrospect, you come to realize we don't want to push it top, we don't want to push the lead, and the bot lane is hyper contested because with the double range bot lane, that Heimerdinger, it's much harder to get that control.
Yeah.
So I think that when we think about how DRX wins in terms of those pushing lanes, this is what we need to see more of from DRX. Agency in the early game.
All right, well, there you have it. Thoughts on game number 1, as it is T1 that strikes first blood. Faker, of course, becoming the first ever player to win 10 finals games, on his way to possibly a 4th trophy. Now, esports fans, they're gathering to watch the greatest series in League of Legends, and not just here in San Francisco, in theaters all around the globe. If you're at one of these events, make sure you check out the URL on your screen, send us a picture or a video, and capture the atmosphere. We'll be sure to feature some of them later on in the show, so you might just see your video on the broadcast. Send those in. We'll see you back here for game number 2 right after this.
That was the first game Faker's won without Bengi in finals.
Also true.
Dude, you balled it.
긴장한 사람 없지? 나 진짜 안 했어 근데.
Faker still pretty far forward. Flash! Spectral Ball! First blood over to Zeka. Drake secured as Faker goes in. Deft is on the run. 40% AD. Zeus ready for the re-engage.
I still can't believe they got that dragon.
And Deft is down. Zeus looks for Q3. Zeus in with a skull and a zero. People ain't gonna do a whole lot. They still got a little bit of damage, but it is not enough. Barrel's gonna die. Deft is gonna die. T1 will find the fight and find the win in game one.
My hunger is endless. It cannot be sated, and it will not be stopped. Welcome to the Howling Games.
Snow is an incredible city and the perfect place to host the final here in Worlds 2022. Y'all just saw some city scenics and behind-the-scenes shots from our featured shoot, Shot on One Plus. And now, my friends, it's time for game number 2.
Time for the comeback to start.
DRX are always doubted. You know, they always fall down. They fell down against Gen G. They fell down against EDG, and they always find ways to bounce back. I think in this series, DRX are probably going to flip over to that side. We're going to punch them in the draft. But what I will say is, DRX got their hands on a lot of picks that they excel on, and T1 managed to beat them on.
Yeah, that was one of the things. Even though you have leeway to be more creative on your side, I thought from red side, the answers that DRX had were very players too. That game number 1 was so much down, outplays from T1 all across the map in their laning phase. Really, really nicely done.
Outplays during laning phase and grouping up the objectives, being there first. They never really gave DRX an opportunity to get back in time. So let's jump into change selection. With patient and line timed out by DRX, T1 will take Caitlyn and Yuumi off the table. Pretty standard stuff. Here for the red side, they have to pay the taxes. They have to get rid of those OPs. Renata Clash could be the third and final man for third half scratch.
Interesting. So the 3 bot lane champions, of course, are gone. And DRX thinks that Renata last game. I wonder if they were to DRX here.
Interesting because DRX, like you were talking about earlier, Deft has not been playing the Aphelios, so it puts them kind of at -1 in their ability man over and over and over, and so they're pushed into this scenario, taking it away from Zuma.
She does play this stuff. They can lock in a Aphelios lane here. They can lock in something like a Kalista lane if they're confident. Sivir could work very well in the Varus, something that DRX was running. Diego is up if Owner wants to lean into that. I think T1 have so many options. The question is, do they do what DRX did and take away this Aatrox, and therefore the team have a response to that issue?
Oh no, my friends. We're getting a different flavor. Remember, this is on the blue side by T1 and T1. By T1 on red side.
T1 just have so much leverage. They've already defeated the Aatrox to him, and now Deus Vita gets to pose the same question.
Does he go for the Kindred?
Yeah, you hover the Graves, I hover the Kindred. This is Piosik's answer. The Kindred streamer wanting to get a world. They won't have to lock it in. I'm very interested how deep Keria goes. He's one of the supports with the deepest champions pool. There goes Toronto, Zyra, possibly pushed around.
You also don't have support as well. Just players like Mako, if they want to just flex this carry their goal, they're going to go Ash Grubs into Heimerdinger Varus. Maybe they can get a little bit of push. They have a lot of follow-up and a lot of CC.
Yeah, super long range. You can try and fish around for those bindings. Really good play. Obviously, the volley here for Ash helping so much with that push.
Plus, Heimerdinger is really good at blocking certain skill shots with the
when you also have Ash lanes with the Hawk Truck to be able to find your opponent and get those Graves in base off. So T1 really setting Owner up to be the star this time around.
Might just get the same with jungle from last game. Diego Silas coming out here from DRX. They're confident enough to not ban the Graves, take away the Azir instead, and then max Diego with the Graves and then run back. Something like the Silas, as we expect. That takes away the Lissandra, that takes away the Galio. I think Galio and Lissandra are very difficult to pull off against Silas, so we might see more of a control mid here from
What will they choose? It's Victor. Perfect.
Control mage makes a lot of sense. He wants the whole range champions on your team here. He wants so much gold, so much LPL now look like not to be the favorite at all in the LCK, but here he is. This was of his life. Just need to get out of this lane phase. Faker will have the advantage in this part of the game. He's just about to kind of getting as many creeps as possible.
And it's not like Zeka was a bad mid during regular season, right? During domestic play. Top half mid laner. Adjusting an entirely different story. As Owner makes his way into the bottom lane, Beryl and Jeff trying to get away. A lot of I don't think they could dive him with level 4 on Minion, and this one pressure is now safe for T1 where both lanes want to push.
Yeah, it was the exact same invade from both junglers. They both used their control wards behind the red buff to go get enemy Krugs, but it's a higher value. There for Owner, burning the summoner spell off the deck, getting that bottom lane into an opportunity.
Perhaps Killsick needs to be 3v3, so it's not really worth investing in time down there. Pushing towards level 6, where these AD carries have so much set up on the enemy support, right? Varus will be Ashe will go for Heimerdinger. So easy on that kill shot, so we'll see what happens towards level 6 as well.
And the value of going with the bottom side there for Owner is so much higher because Dragon coming up for themselves with the extra summoner spell burned as well.
Roaming around, on the side of DRX. He'll find himself on top of the control ward. Graves is also nearby. Owner lurking in his own jungle. DRX knows T1 is trying to stay in the fight. This is not a problem where they want to take the ocean away.
Yeah, important defense of that control ward there. Owner coming down and threatening in the fog of war. Pyosik has to give up. They can't take away that key vision.
Level 4 on both sides, Crab spawning, but bot push for T1. TP back from Faker will allow mid push and first response from the mid laner of T1 to allow Owner to get that Crab. Advantage across to T1.
No. Jungle clearing out again.
Bit of a slow early game, but the stun onto Gumayusi connects. Cleanse is down. That opens up a window for Deft towards that level 6, and they need to find that window. They need to break their way through bot lane. How many times have DRX made comebacks in situations where you counted them out? Can T1 stand strong? They've only lost 2 games this entire tournament. Will they fall, or will they lose a game here to DRX in the finals? We will soon find out, but Gumayusi trading aggressively on
damage here onto both AD carries. Guma's at about 200 HP, but Beryl has no mana left to work with.
No kills yet.
Yeah, Beryl keeps landing these grenades onto Guma, though. Got the cleanse out on the first one. Good chunk here as well. If he had a little bit more mana, maybe they push it harder.
Ooh, close, but no cigar. The arrow does not find Gumayusi. Deft is looking to stay around, push a little bit more. Wants to get one more wave taken care of before he gets his recall, I would assume. Beryl goes back. He purchases his control wards. He's going to go back out onto the map, look to set down some vision, look to do a little bit of roaming as Deft finishes off the last little bit of this wave. Keria should be around to be able to freeze it and make sure that nothing goes too wrong.
Yeah, he's going to hold the wave there and force Deft to base a little bit further back, try to stop his recall. He's going to pull it into the next wave so it stops crashing, and then it allows Gumayusi to catch up and get a couple of these creeps that he might have missed. You can see that how the bot lane dynamic is playing out. Poke Varus, lethality build, Comet, Vamp Scepter for Gumayusi to try to sustain. Faker.
Beryl's ready to go. The grenade finds the mark, but there's not enough damage. Faker deploying the gravity well on top of himself to stop it from going any further. Zeka finds a lot of damage into Faker. He's only got 200 HP left, and Zeka has ulti, but Faker is safe.
mid push is everything. That's why Beryl's here, because Herald's about to spawn. You can see Pyosik moving over towards it. Kingan's just taking a base to make sure he's ahead of Zeus in itemization. Death has ran towards bot, so he might see a 4v4 around this top side, but DRX actually not going to start it up just yet.
Yeah, super high value gank from Beryl here because of the fact that they already have used their teleports, allowing the push out. And Zeka on the Sylas, highest CS in the game. He's so good at these Sylas and Akali melee mid lane champions that have to trade their health early and focusing on CS. He does such a good job of getting that money early.
Keep your eyes on the minimap though, because Gumayushi's around mid, Faker's come out of base, Deft is sprinting towards the top side, Zeka on the way as well. It's going to be a 5v5 around this Herald. Zeus is grouping up with his team. Kingan's prioritizing top wave, the Herald resets.
Level 6 on everybody except Beryl. That is a big factor here. He's not even close, and T1's got 5 men on the top side river.
Owner did something interesting there. He used his regular smite on the Rift Herald to transform it into the 900 damage smite in case there's a smite fight, so he has the empowered one.
All right, let's see it. DRX ready to contest. Gravity well over the wall. Gonna find Death. Forced to cleanse. Wants to get away. Has to flash. Down. Barely getting away from the snipe. But T1 controls the fight, controls the river, and controls the Herald.
Same story from game 1. T1 are first the objective. DRX are forced to face check. Deft oversteps. He's out of the fight. 5v4. DRX have to give it up.
Oh, and there's so much long-range threat with the Graves ultimate, with Victor ultimate, Ash arrow here from Guma. Now Deft, no summoner spells. Mid lane T1 pushing in the aftermath as well. Faker wants some money.
Zeka doing a good job sidestepping away from a lot of this damage that could be heading towards him. He'll farm up all of those minions, maintains an incredible CS lead, finds the E2 onto Faker. Q2's not going to get the damage, but he's doing just fine. Meanwhile, Beryl up here in the top lane. Grenades and rockets, not going to get a whole lot done just yet. Beryl still not level 6. Kingan goes in. Owner's the target, but now Zeus is locked down. Carry is here over the wall. It's first blood over to Owner, and T1 are absolutely outplaying. Pyosik will not find the damage yet. He won't find the damage at all. Carrier gets it, and T1 goes 3 for nothing.
Carrier, the sniper over the wall with the Lux, ensures that Zeus stays upright in this. What a beautiful skirmish from T1. They bait them right in there. Calling over Carrier, lands the combo.
You hit it right there, Kobe. Carrier saves the day. 3 kills to T1 in a play which DRX were looking for. Sending Beryl up towards that top side. Having Pyosik hover around, look for Zeus. Try to find that pick. T1 read them like a book. Again, Carrier's there to respond. Zeka very low. Beryl gonna push Faker back so to allow his mid laner to take a base.
Man, oh man, it is not the start that DRX wanted in game number 2. Beautifully played from T1 in that topside skirmish, but the Herald is still in the inventory of Owner. They can still use that anytime in the next 2 minutes, but right now, their sights are on the Drake.
This is something that we've talked so much about in the pre-show. T1's ability to outplay in these skirmishes. And we've seen it in the semifinals, in the quarterfinals, them just dodging so many skill shots, setting up these even number scenarios and getting the huge advantage out of it. Another arrow lands into a full combo. It's just a big chunk, but it's while they're also getting the objective.
And they have the Herald as well, so they can push in these bot waves, force DRX.
Oh my God! Carrier, are you kidding me? He just sets it up like it's point clear.
Carrier says hello to his old lane partner. I'm sorry, Deft. I'm not going to be able to give you the Summoner's Cup. I want to win.
Alrighty, let's see if Faker can get away from Pyosik and Zeka. Faker doesn't make it over the wall. He's in trouble, but he gets to safety. He flashes forward. It'll be a 1-for-1, but Pyosik's in trouble. He uses the Heartbreaker to get away. Zeka getting back now as well. They'll trade Beryl for Faker. DRX will take that.
T1 domination right now in these skirmishes. DRX try their best to fight back. Faker has to expend the flash, but he expends it aggressively rather than trying to flash away to make it a 1-for-1. They don't get the Herald down, but his bot side's in their favor. Kingan fighting against Zeus.
Zeus with the World Ender active, trying to chase Kingan back. However, the ulti is about to expire, so Zeus is going to back off there.
If we can refocus on some hope for DRX, it comes back to one player. Never mind this one-on-one. It's so close.
It's going away. Kingan with the flash to get out of the way of the Q3. Beryl shows up, but he doesn't land it until the very end. Beryl, the rocket sniper, gets the kill. But now Owner's ready to go.
Buckshot in his back. There's no way home for the Donger. Say good night. Owner picks up another.
Time and time again, T1 respond to everything DRX are throwing at them. They're going to trade 1 for 1, and they're going to place the Herald down, funnel all this gold into Owner.
Straight from draft, we talked about Owner being set up to be the one for success this game. And in game, he is going to be rich, getting all the kills, getting the Rift Herald activation on top lane turret plates as well.
And we talk about Deft and Carrier, you know, 2020 DRX, one of the best bot lanes in the world. Everyone was celebrating them as the lane kingdom, and they thought that they could get a trophy together, but it was Owner and Zeus in 2020. While they were trying to chase the title, they were trying to win the Academy Series, and they did indeed. They won the Academy Series 2-0, looked so dominant, and that's when they got put onto this main roster. You fast forward now 2 years later, and Owner is just so strong on his Graves, level 8, 3-0 and 2, has the Umbral Grave, and it all comes off the back of Kingen trying to find the 1v1. The flash away from the Q3 was great, but there wasn't as much follow-up damage as he might have hoped for, as Beryl did arrive slightly late with the grenade, but he manages to pick him up with the missiles.
Yeah, look at the mini-map. Beryl gets here a little bit sooner, but Owner right on the way. Snipes him with the rockets here after Kingen set it up, and it from downtown. Gumayusi hits the arrow. Owner finishes the job.
Yeah, the Ashe was nowhere nearby. He's all the way back home in bottom lane. That one came from across the map to guarantee they get the kill back onto the support.
Gumayusi with the headshot there from across the map. There is the Hawk shots again, just coming in constantly. You talked about it, Kobe, about how the Graves is oppressive and wants to get in the river and look for vision, and the Ashe just facilitates that so well. So bot lanes towards mid here. Herald spawning in 30 seconds. Pick onto Faker.
Pioshik gets Spectral Maw. Kingan's ready to follow. Hextech ultimatum to stay out of the gravity well. Faker will buy a moment here with the Zhonya's. He dies. Kingan grabs the kill, but now he's got to get away. Zeus lands Q3 on 2, but the damage ain't there. Zeus tries to get out, but Death is ready to go and shoots him through the heart.
Zeka took away Gumayushi's arrow there and shot it into Carrier to stop Carrier from being able to peel for the solo lanes of T1. Explosive fight in favor of DRX. They're going to chunk out this mid tower, but more importantly, they're going to get the Herald off the back of this play. One of the first neutral objectives DRX have picked up in this entire series.
This is huge. This is the first step in the comeback for DRX. Zeka, the most fed member on the team, 162 CS with the kill, steals that ult you're talking about. That's 2 for DRX and the Herald. No more Rift, or no more turret plates left on the map for them to cash in quickly, but it'll help with taking down one of those outer towers.
It's not just what you get, it's what they don't get. You must slow the bleeding. You must be able to stop T1 from running away with it, and DRX are finding their signs of life.
40 seconds on the next dragon. Neutral objective spawning up. T1 currently have a little bit of control around it. Carrier has placed the vision down, gone for a base, refreshed those wards to make sure he's ready in case DRX tries to contest. Zeka still yet to base though. Faker has the TP. He can join that fight whenever he wants. Does DRX want to press the advantage and look for another fight around a neutral objective? We'll see this one again because it's the initial pick onto Faker, but it's Zeka. Look at his positioning. He's in bot lane. I think he has an Ashe ult that'll come up and hit Carrier a little bit later on. But this stopwatch from Faker here was brilliant because it denies the Q2 from Kingen to allow the Chaos Storm to do damage. Arrow comes through from Zeka all the way from downtown, stops Carrier from being able to peel to save Zeus.
Wow.
Boom.
Wow.
Boom.
Dang.
Nicely done.
Okay, that was
nicely done.
Man,
But
these
now
arrows
we
are
find
just
ourselves ready
so
for
vital.
another neutral objective fight. It is still almost a 2,000 gold lead for the side of T1. So DRX, they'll have to play smart. They'll have to find their moment, and they'll have to find a pick. Pioshik already going to start up the Drake down here. Nice CC on the barrel, but not enough follow-up to take him down. First turret's going to die up there in the top lane. It's Faker getting credit for that one. T1's not going to contest the Drake, so DRX will trade it for the first turret.
Yeah, smartly cross-mapping there from T1. Faker saying he wants the top tier 1, but I think DRX are going to Herald here. Yes, they are, so Faker will move down. Zeus will move up. They're going to get a bit sandwiched here, DRX. Barrel's very low. The Herald won't kill the tower, so they need to get the next wave in. Gumayusi has to use Cleanse.
Nicely done. Gumayusi getting himself back. But the shutdown on Owner means that DRX now have a man advantage. The tier 1 turret still standing for now, but DRX wants to take it out. Minion wave's gonna collide. They're playing it safe. A little bit more damage into the turret is all they need, but they won't be able to find it. Barrel with a flash away. Zeus can't get the kill to follow. Lux Laser's gonna be sidestepped. Another kill over to DRX. This team is ready.
They're doing it. They are making the comeback a reality. They're starting believe. A tower down in mid lane. This opens up
This
the
is
map
the
for them
game I
to
wanted.
get that vision back in their favor so they can actually set up their own plays for once. T1, of course, are still in the lead, 1,000 gold, but DRX back-to-back successful plays.
Beryl is such a legend. I'm just going to say it right now. 3 finals appearances. This
That was
grenade
such a
across the
good
top
start.
to land onto Owner
Got
to get
him.
to the first kill.
And,
I think that Mikhails came out from Carrier there on top of a cleanse. They were focusing so much on Gumayushi. Keep your eyes on Beryl. This guy's 30% HP on Heimerdinger just walking up to T1, baits them into it, forces Zeus to flash to try to get the kill on the gap close, and then they turn it into another kill, another tower. Look how much confidence this player is playing with.
Flashes out away from Zeus. Zeus tries to follow, can't
my
catch
God.
him. He
Dodges the
tries
laser.
laser, walks away, and T1 can't get any money back. That was a beautiful CC chain from DRX. It was the grenade into the stun from Viego, into the extra stun as well. Burst him all the way down. Kingen jumps over.
The gold lead has shrunk to less than half of what it used to be. DRX are finding moments, they're finding moves. Stopwatch available on Zeka's Silas here as well. Still the only member on the team without a death for DRX. Tier is also stacked halfway up for Deft here on that Varus. Has the Eclipse as the mythic item, so you know he's going to be spamming out some of those high damage arrows the further we go.
DRX playing mid to top here. Zeus ready on the face check. He knows he doesn't want to go to on top side because the wave is in a great state. Arrow misses there from Gumayushi, trying to force the cleanse out of Deft to make him so he has a bit more pressure around this lane. Does Deft want to ult him back? He's going to throw the Q. Doesn't have cleanse there, Gumayushi, but Carrier, first item Mikhails to keep his AD carry safe.
And you're going to have a side lane problem here for T1 because Camille's got a double stacked wave up at that outer tower. DRX are going to take even more objectives right now. Pyosik cuts off Zeus, so Zeus can't go defend that tower. And look at the work Kingen is putting in.
Great shift here from DRX. What you innately do is you push T1 back from mid lane to make them take a longer path to top. You take a shorter one so you can respond if they want to defend. Kingen doesn't have vision around the jungle support right now, but he knows that he's taken the objective. There's nothing left to be done. Zeka in isolation against Faker, who has a little bit of wave clear. He's going to proc the crown.
Yeah, that was a beautiful intercept. Here we go, though. Steals the ultimate.
Zeka's ready to go. Everfrost to lock Faker down. He walks away from the stolen Chaos Storm. Faker's at 40% health and no mana, so he has to fall back from this structure. Zeka has control over the bottom lane, and may just be able to take another turret as Kingen backs up in the top side, respecting the fact that T1 recently had a lot of men up here.
TP coming in from Faker. He just picked up Zhonya as he has it for the dive. Can they pull it off?
They're going to miss the stun, but they find the second. There comes
Oh, the
cross
stun!
map arrow. Faker has no ulti.
didn't
Remember
get-
it. Faker's got no way out.
He didn't
and
have turn
Zeka gets the
aggro.
kill.
Welcome to the bottom lane. Teleport completes, and DRX welcome Faker with open arms. That means the other side of the map, T1 know they've got the numbers advantage. They take away the jungle. They try and push in, but no kill.
Yeah, they can't pressure this tier 2 either. Kingen can just kind of sit in their face and clear away the wave. A lot of pressure in mid here from DRX means that they can collapse quite quickly. The bases are coming through to run towards top. There's Beryl on your screen, ready to help out the top laner of DRX. Bot tier 1 falls, and DRX have a gold lead against T1. It's been an entire year of best of threes where they have not had a game state this strong.
It's actually so crazy how many comebacks. If you come back from that inhibitor respawning game, you come back crazy.
I love Beryl.
God.
Doesn't even know
What
he's
a
there.
Chad.
The
He
flying
just took the
Heimerdinger.
blast cone, man.
The
He
flying
didn't even
Heimerdinger.
care that push was in the fog of war.
funny.
The only ever time DRX had a game state like this was round 2 in summer 2022, where they had Zeka on things like Akali, similar to this in game 2. But it was the GP from Zeus that stopped so much of the cross maps. DRX's macro was just too weak to go up against T1, but we've seen them take a top tier 1 from a shift to mid, take a bot tier 1 from a shift to mid, set up around these objectives, make sure they're first. The bounce back from game 1 is incredible.
And I love exactly those little plays that they make to try and help out the macro when they're pushing top lane for Pyosik to go into the jungle and cut off T1 if they're trying to rotate and answer the play, ensure they get the objective. Now they're up in Dragons as well, sacking this one with no counterplay from T1 because they've pushed out both side lanes.
T1 needs to approach these fights by kiting back. Kingen's going to jump in. Zeka and Pyosik are going to jump in, looking for a reset on the Viego. Deft and Beryl are going to play at range. So that means Zeus kind of needs to play frontline for T1 and try to help them burn through the divers of DRX's solo lane.
Dodging all those lugs.
Ooh, Beryl eats a little damage there from the laser, but one of the big reasons I think DRX has swung the tempo of this game is after Carrier found that ambush for the 3 kills in the top lane,
DRX have been doing a much better job avoiding those bindings, just like that. They're keeping enough distance that they can stay away from Karia's trap.
And now we have to see Zeka, after all we've talked him up, after an amazing year at Worlds, an amazing tournament, can he actually carry the team fights versus Faker, the greatest of all time? He's the most fed member on DRX. He has the extra kills here on his signature Sylas.
Oop. I thought for sure that might have got there. I thought we might have got the 0.25 last seconds of the recall to interrupt it, but not quite, not quite.
Every time the camera goes onto Beryl, he's being really cheeky, isn't he? He's just playing, he's a very stubborn player here. You know, I was speaking to Ashley Kang in terms of how he approaches communication with his team. Sometimes in draft in Damwon, he'll just say to players like Nuguri, you're a good Fiora, just lock it in, don't be scared. Just pull it off and we'll have a good game. So he just plays with so much confidence.
Yeah, Zeka has said the same thing in his mid lane matchup when Beryl gave him the confidence saying, we are up, you know, your opponents are going to be scared, play more aggressively. Exactly citing this player.
These arrows haven't landed, have they? T1 trying to get Deft's cleanse, but Beryl in trouble now.
Owner jumps in. Beryl's going to lose half HP, but without Gumayusi's arrow, DRX knows they don't really have any way to catch up to him.
3 minutes on the Dragon. There's nothing to really fight for here for T1. They just wanted to get the crab. Pyosik will face check Faker, will get chunked out a bit, but T1 need to force this cleanse out of Deft so they can get some kind of mid push. While he has cleanse up, he has that defensive summoner to push them back.
Pyosik's doing the same thing. He's trying to cut off people going to answer the split push for themselves. They've got Zeka topside. Sylas pushes the wave all the way to the tower. Faker has to go respond, and they get a little bit deeper vision here for DRX, taking over behind the red buff.
Thus is the nature of a tankless draft. Beryl with a flash away. He'll avoid any more follow-up. Gumayusi still no arrow to try to lock them down further. Beryl drops the giant turret there as he makes his exit. DRX lose the flash on their support there from the attempted pick of T1. Still 2 minutes to go on the Drake.
Those are the timers T1 can play around. When Zeus can push out bot wave and move towards mid, DRX need to respect it. They didn't do it in this case, but Zeus will have to go back bot, catch the wave. Kingen has pressure on that side lane. Zeka has pressure on the side on the opposite side. 3 pushing lanes for DRX.
Allowing them to take away jungle resources. These lines of wars, they fought pretty heavily for Pyosik to get this one behind red. Blue buff one stolen away as well. They're getting themselves step by step in the position to force T1 to those longer rotations that you're talking about. So they're always going to be a few seconds behind.
It's all about time management and tempo in this game, making sure you're always first.
Minus one cannon, though.
Didn't get it there. And the next spike for DRX is this Rabadon on Zeka. When that Sylas has 3 items and gets towards the level 16, that's when you'll see DRX really start to press their advantage, try to force around Barons. Their Baron damage isn't great, but their turn is with champions like Camille and Sylas. 1 minute on the next Dragon, they can play towards that Ocean Soul point as well.
And I want to go back to a little bit ago now, Kadril, when you pointed out DRX finally taking the gold lead in the game. It hasn't been by much. They've been 100, 200 gold ahead. We are dead even. 26 minutes into this game, teams are getting strong enough, both of them, to be looking towards the Baron if they find an advantage. This is the point where everything rests on a knife's edge. It could go either way depending on a hero play from anybody, and Kingen is here off to the side for DRX as T1 is grouped up in the mid lane. Keria goes fishing again, but just not a whole lot to find.
Remember, both AD carries have that cleanse. So looking for the picks on the other members. Ash Arrow on one side. Zeka not stealing an ultimate quite yet. Going back for his death cap right now. Ooh, he cancels the recall though.
Kingen gave up a bot wave just to hover around for so long. You can see it's at the tower now. He has to run down and catch that. T1 were spamming question mark things in their blue side jungle, wondering where the top laner was. The poke is getting dangerous. 3 item spikes are coming in slowly. 10 seconds on the Dragon spawn. DRX are first. T1 grouping up towards mid. Zeka taking the base, has the TP ready if his team needs him.
Faker lost the crown of the Shattered Queen there from the arrow that came out from Deft, but the Rabadons is up for Zeka. 3 item power spike is in, and recognizing that, I don't know if T1 will be willing to contest the Drake here.
He also has critical level 16 on the Sylas. Advantage over Faker, so T1 gotta give that up.
It's really hard for T1 to face check. You've got a Camille in Fog of War, a Varus ult. Zeka can take away the Ashe ult. You've got 2 such strong single target damage lockdowns that T1 can't afford to step up. They're going to face a DRX on Soul Point down. It's only going to get worse. They're going to be forced to face check in once again in 5 minutes time. and we'll see if DRX move towards the Baron.
Exactly. 5 minutes is a long time in League of Legends, and that means for those next 5 minutes, Baron is the big thing. We expect to see both of the teams play around. Faker pushing out the top wave, likely going back to purchase his third item now as well, I would assume, as you're going to see recalls happening across the map here from both sides. Everybody regrouping, stopwatches and control wards in inventories. We know the Baron dance is about to begin.
Let the dance begin. All the talk of Deft's last dance. Will it be a happy ending, or will it be sad? DRX getting there first. Control wards already inside. Hawkshot's such a big advantage for T1 though. Being able to very, very safely keep their vision.
Kingen's grouping up. They're not actually playing side lanes right now, DRX. They're just all hovering around this Baron pit. Kingen is going to move towards bot now. Pings on the tier 2. T1 have a window to find a fight.
Oh, Beryl the target of the crystal arrow, but he gets away.
No flash as well. Beryl's just in their face. T1 now have to retreat backwards. Waves coming in. They have to catch top. They have to catch mid. Kingen still in this fog of war. Not pushing bot. He really wants to fight.
Here we go. DRX in the enemy jungle. Beryl's going to be found by Keria, but he does not step into the CC. Zeka now being chased, has to flash out. Faker flashes in. Zeka goes to the Kingslayer. He's trying to find any sort of a chance he could get, but he's 1v4, and he hits the floor. Shut down over to Zeus.
Really good timing here for T1 to commit to the pick onto Zeka. It's still going to cost you an extra turret as DRX are able to shift over to mid lane, but getting that kill, getting the flash as well out of Zeka, out of the Sylas, can set themselves up for a big, big advantage looking at Baron. Faker will also have to play a lot safer on the Victor though. Him without flash will have to keep distance.
Base is coming in now, kill for tower trade like you highlighted. Dragon still 2 minutes 45 seconds away. That's always going to be plan B for DRX. Plan A is always going to be around this Baron, trying to force fights. Level 16 on your solo laners like this means you do want to press the advantage. Stopwatches across the board. One fight will blow this entire game open either way. Kingen wins this fight, but he's looking for the blue buff.
Kingen level 16 compared to the level 15 of Zeus. Pretty big difference. Oh, beautifully buffered with the hook shot. Kingen gets out from what would have otherwise been a very precarious situation as Zeus now has to retreat and Kingen has backup. Pyosik will clear some of the vision out of this bottom side jungle. Barrel's hanging around nearby now too. Kingen keeping the push going here. Lux Laser to thin the wave. Zeus wants to try to get rid of as many of these minions as he can. Kingen's going to step up, trade with him here a little bit. Hook shot right back to Zeus.
The objective for DRX remains the same though. They want to continue with these same setups where they're able to push in on top and bottom first. That way, even if one of the side lane pushers gets picked off, like we saw Zeka last time, they still get an advantage, are able to trade a turret on the other side with the extra pressure that they mount. T1 take this little timing window though to hard shove mid, and here comes the flank.
Barrel going for the bouncing grenade. He's not going to find nobody yet. Chains of Corruption find Faker, but a nice use of the Mikhails gets him away. Owner's now your target. Kingen goes golden, getting himself out of Aggro's way. Now you got Zeus here in the front line. Zeka stealing away the Gumayushi ult. He finds Zeus. Everfrost ain't going to hit the mark. T1 in retreat. DRX in chase. DRX heading back over to the Baron pit. Deft firing arrows to cover their retreat. Barrel in some danger, has to flash the chain, but they get the ulti out of Zeus.
Summoner spells blown across the board. Still 1 minute on that dragon. Everyone needs to take a base, get their health bars back up, get as many items as possible, refresh wards, come back out on the map and contest these waves again. It's a dance around mid. DRX can't commit too hard into T1, and T1 really want to kite back.
Yeah, the biggest takeaway from that fight is that the next one, there will be blood, because splashes are getting very scarce. The only two remaining ones are on the T1 bottom lane. So these arrows that are coming from Gumayushi, the flash bindings that are coming from Keria will be so much more likely to land, to find purchase in the next attempt.
And just as big as summoner spells, Gumayushi has purchased a stopwatch. Kingen used his in that fight, but has upgraded it into a Guardian Angel, and Pyosik still has his. 10 seconds until what will be the soul spawns for DRX as Keria gets chunked.
My eyes are on that Mikhail's cooldown. See if it comes up for Keria in time. Did Kingen take away that crab? No, he didn't. Zeus got it. So the Mikhail's needs to come up so the T1 can face check. They need to use it on the Varus ultimate of Death. Pyosik Pio6 off to the side. Kingen looking for an angle, finds himself on a control war. T1 need to stay at a death ball. DRX really want to sandwich them and squeeze the carries backwards so they can kill the front line.
Pioshik walks out, using the mist to cover his retreat. Zeka's here on the flank. Kingen even further behind. Again, beautifully buffered with the hook shot.
He's so good. Really quick reaction times there, and now no Ash Arrow for the pick for T1. They still have the flash advantage though.
Yeah, Dragon's already going to be started. T1 have the aggro, but Kingen is again on the flank. Gumayushi's at 2/3 HP. Drake is going to be secured, but Kingen's coming in. Carry and Zeus go over the wall. Gumayushi is caught, but he goes into the stopwatch only for a moment. Shut down back over to Zeka. Owner's his target. E2 strikes true, and Owner is trapped. Or is he? Now he's finally going to be killed. Double kill back over to Silas. T1 gets one back, but they're still retreating. Zeka flash in. Zeka looking for the triple. Buys time with Zonius. Kingen's ready to back him up. Faker goes over the wall. Zeus tries to fight, but the damage pours in. Zeka grabs a third, and they're now going to find Faker here in the bottom lane. Kingen and Def do the work, and that's money in Def's pocket. And DRX will put them all down. That is 5 members of T1 in the dirt. DRX turn towards the Baron. They are making the push.
And it all comes off the back of Zeka. This kid is the real deal. You give him these playmakers, he will make magic happen. From having a strong lane phase up against the greatest player of all time to being the driving force in that team fight to get them this Baron.
Oh, an arrow. Ah, Baron.
No arrow steal, no chance, no shot. It is DRX with a 35-minute Baron.
Zeka has faced every challenge in front of him standing up. The only last question was going to be Faker, and he stands tall again. Take a look at it. They gave up the Dragon. They were looking for the collapse the entire time. All eyes on Gumayushi to get that AD carry out of the fight first. And then they know they can go for the chase. With Silas and Camille, some of the longest range chase for solo laners you can have in the game. Zeka, as well as Kingen, finding the collapse.
And that's it. It's Zeka and King in the driving force. Beryl right behind them. Pio6 just fishing for resets. Deft missed his ult, missed a couple Qs, didn't get as much impact as he would want. Zeka did go for the Q there on Keria. Maybe could have picked up the triple. But T1 just don't have the damage for this Silas. He's just running straight through all of them, picking up all the kills. And eventually, Faker falls to Deft and Kingen.
Faker without enough mana to try to fight back in this 1v2 as Keria runs himself into the turret, and execution is all he can hope for. And DRX finally found the fight they were looking for. They command a Baron and a 3,000 gold lead, and they're pushing into the T1 base.
Oh, hold me close, boys. This is what we wanted from this series. DRX poised to strike back against T1. They're at the gates. They're knocking on the door.
Zeka has stolen the Ashe ultimate. Keep your eyes on either side from a long-range pick.
Zeus clearing mid-wave, Def staying towards top. Arrow misses Kingen again. He buffered the E every single time Gumayushi's fishing for these arrows. DRX are dodging and diving away. It's a 1-4 right now. Kingen's pushing mid, 4-man top for DRX. Beryl is the bridge between them. Faker's on the side. T1 looks like they want to fight, but without the Ashe ult, it's incredibly hard. When does Zeka pull the trigger?
Exactly. Keep your eyes on the Silas. Mid lane continuing to be chunked down here by the minions. Kingen getting chased after by Faker. Kingen could be in some trouble. Owner's ready to follow it up. Flash out. Faker gets the kill, and T1 holds the line.
That's got to put a stop to the siege right there. That pick alone, T1 have dealt with this critical timing window. While DRX are wearing Baron for another 50 seconds, they take down King and they relieve the pressure.
Big mistake there from King, and he tried to E off the wall to land onto Faker, but he wasn't in range. Doesn't commit the ult because he realizes Faker has so much damage, and the arrow missed from Zeka. Tries to run away. The flash didn't get as much distance away as he might would want, but here's where he eased the wall and looks for the fight. Arrow misses as well. Faker doesn't get stunned. And then Kingen realizes he's made a mistake, has to run back around the tower in case he'll get stunned. Flash doesn't really avoid anything apart from the Lux ult, and he dies.
Yep, this is what makes the difference. The moments on the biggest stage in the world with all of the pressure. DRX still can recover though. no problem for them. They've got the gold lead. They also still have Dragon Soul Point. Dragon arriving in 50 seconds.
Exactly, and that afforded them a good fight last time. Death for the clans, death for the flash. That is both summoner spells of the DRX marksman. That is huge for T1 in this upcoming battle.
No ultimate as well. He should be in time for the Dragon spawn. T1 will get the mid tower though, and they will keep on going. The solo lanes are here to respond. Pyosik is lying in wait, waiting for this Dragon to spawn, waiting for T1 to move into this bot side river. T1 should know that he's around there with the mist and the wards being down, so they'll stay as a death ball, stay grouped up. Deft will rejoin Zeka.
Zeka walking right into a brush. Everfrost on 3. Honestly, Graves' collateral damage barely tickled him. That's half HP on the DRX mid laner.
Yeah, T1 are fishing for big chunks on health that would allow them a better setup on Dragon. It's just going to be a teleport back from Zeka, though. Level 18 on the side. Let's carry it. Go.
Oh, flash binding. If they grab Pyosik, they guarantee the Drake. Pyosik with the flash back over the wall.
Oh my
God. Chain, CC. Pyosik goes into the GA. He's just buying time. The Dragon's already up. T1 trying to chase, but are they going to lose out on the Drake? The Dragon's still being burned. DRX are gone.
Oh my God, T1 so good.
Kingen stuck in the pit, trying to jump out. Pulled right back in by the Infernal Chains. He'll resurrect as well. That is 2 Guardian Angels wasted on the side of DRX.
Keria finds the enemy jungler. He sniffs out Pyosik, flashes on him, forces him away from the Dragon. They kill the jungler. That allows Owner to flash in on the Graves and steal away the Dragon. So my goodness, it was at their fingertips.
Keria just does not miss, does he? With the Everfrost, with the Qs, he knew how much time he had to help Gumayusi gap close. We'll see it again. So pops the E to get a little bit of vision onto Pyosik. Then he just instantly Q flashes him the second he sees it. It gets better though, because as Pyosik ults over the wall, watch this Everfrost lands the tip of it onto him as well to allow Gumayusi to get damage down. Jungler falls, T1 are in time to take away the Dragon. These last 10 minutes have been immaculate.
Then Owner knows, I've got to get to Dragon. They're burning down Dragon, so we see Owner rushing for it. Zeka tries to delay him. Zeka stunned him up there on the ramp. He ults backwards, flashes forward, and gets there in time.
That's so clutch.
Split seconds determined that soul, and Kingen gets pulled back across just to rub salt into the wound. They lose another member. They lose another Guardian Angel. T1 are relentless.
Oh my goodness. Such a close one. So well fought here as well in the setup, and we see the reactions.
Joy on one side, concern on the other, as DRX have had this game going their way for a while, but now T1 have swung it back.
I think that's an incredibly accurate way to put it, because T1, they've got so much pressure on their shoulders to deliver. You know, trying to reestablish the dynasty here, coming in as the favorites. No overreactions for one fight.
We'll see if DRX are unfazed by the last 10 minutes. See if they can still pull this through. It's a very even game state now. Gold within 500-600. Dragons even apiece. T1 have found a way to stabilize the game, and they're becoming incredibly strong. DRX haven't been able to force their advantage as much as they might like. And now it's a Baron dance as it spawns.
Ocean Rift puts so much extra brush on the map, and DRX have to be so careful when they check these brushes. It was the brush check from Zeka that put him such low HP that he had to teleport back into the fight there for the last Drake. DRX now gonna find a ward here in the Baron pit. They can't start anything up cheekily or sneakily. 4 full items plus boots completed on Zeka, working on that final item. Faker himself, full build, late game victor.
DRX have really struggled in these last few fights, but they've faced way worse heartbreak in their series against EDG. So Def's coming out of base, has the Serpent's Fang, 6-item lethality, poke Varus is ready. Summoner's coming up for Keria. Gumayusi still doesn't have the flash, neither does Owner. He had to use it to get the Dragon. Just T1 started up. They have pretty good vision to do so. Zeus has the TP, but they have a free bot tower as Kingen decides to group DRX as 5, trying to get this next mid wave in.
Yeah, #1 priority there for T1. They were trying to find out all these wards so they can't get flanked again. The flanking power of the Camille, of the Sylas, has been devastating. Trying to clear all of these brush and control the side lane push first. Let's make sure it doesn't happen again.
Kingen gonna find Faker, but they're also gonna find Beryl. Kingen wants to get away. Beryl nearly dead, had to flash to save his own life. as T1 have a nice health advantage now. And you'll see Owner, Keria, and Gumayusi heading back towards that topside river, heading back towards that Baron. Def's gonna do as much damage as he can, poking with these piercing arrows. T1 continues to stay together as Kingen tries to cut the wave, trying to make some space, distract T1. The Drake spawning in 1 minute, the Baron still up as they fight for mid lane control.
Faker's Victor is a really big problem for DRX right now. He scaled to the point of 4 items with a crown, with the Rabadons, and it just means that with this full build Victor, how do they get on top of him? They have to proc the crown initially, the ultimate comes out, Beryl instantly has to flash away. Kingen has a little bit of magic resist coming in, but this full item Victor is doing so much work to allow T1 to push forwards.
At least DRX have been able to buy time for their Guardian Angels. They just had Pioshik's cooldown come back up on it and very short on Kingen.
30 seconds on Dragon. T1 first to the river. Kingen in a position to look for a flank. Def needs to arrive. He's trying to clear out the mid wave. Lux ult from Zeka pokes out Owner, but Kingen trying to sandwich T1 here, who want to stay grouped up, who want to look for this Dragon.
The poke wasn't a ton. The fruits are going to heal it off as Owner grabs all of those, and the Drake is ready to go. T1 has stopped this so long enough that now it's guaranteed for either side. Whoever takes it, and we're done with these Ocean Drakes. T1, they're going to start it up. They've got the aggro. They're going to burn through it a little bit, but they're taking their time. Kingen's coming around from the side. Keria trying to keep him away. Def with a piercing arrow. Baker goes in for the flash engage, and the Dragon's been taken by Owner. T1 ready for the chase as Zeka and Beryl run for their lives. Zeka's gonna be isolated. Zeka's gonna be caught. Is Zeka going to be killed? He uses stasis to dodge the arrow. He may be able to use the Kingmaker to get away, but no, it's Zeka traded for Keria in a 1-for-1. Now a TP coming back into the mid lane. T1 with a solid advantage here. Def's gonna look for some poke, finds it on Owner.
They're so good at using these timing windows. T1, they focus everybody on pushing DRX off of the Dragon, allowing Owner to get it. Pioshik is sticking around for the Baron transition here, but Keria also sacrificed his life to keep Kingen out of the fight.
It's a 4v4 and they started up Baron.
Baron's gonna burn fast. T1 got it at half HP. Beryl also at half HP. Pioshik and Def ready to fight. Chains of Corruption fly out. They're going to find 3 different targets. Faker is low. Faker is down. Zeus tries to fight. Owner into the back.
The reset.
Gets Guardian Angel out of Gumayusi as Pioshik is ready to fight. Sword
my
versus
God.
gun. And Owner has to run away.
Deft has 1 shot to kill the king, and he doesn't miss. Faker falls, Gumayusi and Zeus as well. Zeka's TPing in, and he has to TP as he spawns. Do they go towards Baron, or do they look to end the game? It's only Keria and Owner for 40 seconds.
They gotta focus on the minion waves. They can't do it.
They don't need to focus the minions if they're going to be able to focus the enemy team. Keria drop as Owner is now the target. DRX, a couple minions at their back.
There it is.
Kingen wants Owner, but he ain't going to find him. The push continues. Inhibitor falls. DRX want to make it happen. Owner trying to flash in, trying to do it, trying to save it. But no.
That would be good.
Rise to the occasion, and they will tie this series. They lose the soul, but they win the game. DRX clutch it out.
Oh my god, that game was clawed back by T1. They had a soul and they went for a Baron, but it's Def who shoots the arrow onto Faker, gets the initial kill. Once the Victor is down, the rest of DRX can clean up, and with that 1 single window in the last 25 minutes of the game, DRX end the game.
What a win. What a win that started off looking a lot like game number 1. What team play coming out from DRX to keep themselves going blow for blow in what is now the longest game of the tournament so far. That beat out game 5 of Gen G versus Damwon.
My god. It was a mid-game drown for DRX. They couldn't get as many kills they wanted. They got some towers. They lost 2 or 3 dragons in a row.
Heroics were necessary in this game, and they were delivered.
I'm sweating, boys. That was a game. I hope we get 3 more of those.
10 years in the making, this finals.
It really is. And if DRX lost that game, it would have been such a heartbreak, being in the driver's seat. Their first win against T1 all year. They had it in their hands and they almost dropped it, but they stood tall. 1-1.
Remember, versus Gen G, they got their first win against them in game 2 as well. And remember how that series went. but T1 is an entirely different beast. This final is shaping up to be what we were all hoping it would be. And Worlds is a gauntlet, my friends. And the best way to keep up with all the action on the go is Riot Mobile. It's home to all things League, Valorant, and much more, where you can watch Worlds live, catch up with the series scores, and talk about all the action with your friends. Check it out and join us as we head over to the State Farm Analyst Desk.
And we're all tied up, just like that. DRX, a strike back. What a game 2 that was. It started off with so much action. We had kind of an interesting change of pace in the mid game as both teams were really trying to feel each other out. And then an explosive few fights there, back and forth to end it all, and it falls in DRX's favor off of a wild Baron play.
Back and forth and back and forth and back again is how this game felt, because right here, after another smite secure by Owner, I thought T1 was going to do it. I'm thinking, this is just like the RNG series. Are we going to see a sweep? Is DRX going to be able to get the reverse sweep? But the thing with DRX is they absolutely never give up. They buy a bunch of time, they kill carry on the backside, and then they're just figuring out how to stop this T1 Baron.
They certainly are, and the most important person you have to keep your eyes on is Deft. So you can see on your minimap right now, he's going to start making his way up towards the backside of the blue jungle, and he's going to follow up and he's going to land a really crucial ult as T1 kind of funnels into the pit. Keep your eyes on Deft right here. He's going to land such an important ultimate right there on to fake it in the middle of the mall. Gumayushi's then forced to flash very early on in the fight. While he's doing decent damage, it's not enough to be able to shut down Kingen. And on the other side, while Owner is doing a great job, all of T1 gets split apart, and Pyosik demonstrating his great Aatrox performance.
And then crucially right here, decide not to kill the Baron, make the call that even though they have Heimerdinger dead, the wave is close enough. They're so late into the game, the death timers are a minute long, so they just make all the correct decisions in a very crucial moment. A lot of teams would just do Baron here. They do the call to end, they execute, and they win.
And that's so massive for DRX, right? Because we talked about how back and forth this game was. Initially, when DRX got the lead, and then there was a pickoff, and then there was another pickoff, it's like, oh no, this is like domestic DRX. Like, we're back there. To see them come off of this play, not only be able to pull it off, but be so decisive in knowing that they can end is so important.
And I think that we kind of have to go back to the beginning of this game where it did feel like it was just going to be a T1 domination from the start. The fact that they were beating them this closely, you can see how close it really was to DRX being able to gain a huge advantage this early on into the game, but T1 just did not let them as Keria just dominates on the Lux. It was just beautiful early game plays and constant impressive performances from Keria throughout this game.
Yeah, we definitely see why. Like, we talked about the Ashe, we talked about the Heimer. Keria locking in the Lux alongside the Ashe and making these plays. I can't stress enough how, regardless of whatever champion he has, when he's able to get some CC down, when he's able to initiate a fight, the rest of the team follows up so well, and his mechanics are just godly.
So that was T1 setting the pace early with a couple of quick kills, but DRX, not to be outdone, found their opportunities in the early game as well.
Meanwhile, Beryl here, I think I also want to point out both of these supports, right? Because I feel like people aren't necessarily going to think of Beryl when they think of creating space, but he, like, not only survived there, but got so many crucial stuns in a lot of these fights to set up for his team on the Heimerdinger.
You know, as they say, if you can't helium or curium, you bury him. And I think that Beryl demonstrated that perfectly for us with his Heimerdinger performance.
So here's the thing.
I thought you were going to say you barrel him. Like,
Yeah.
it's
No, because that's the Heimerdinger joke. It's the bury him.
He's using the Heimer joke, but
I will say, and I said it before when he played Heimerdinger, his Heimerdinger mechanics, he must have played hundreds of games.
He's damn good at
He knows
Heimer.
every angle, he knows every reset for the turrets, and he always knows the right ultimate to use.
And this fight really was one of the big swings in favor of DRX because we saw many close dragon fights, and this one was really where we started to see DRX claiming full control over it and Zeka really coming online. This is the player that we hyped up so much in the pre-show. This is the individual that we put so much emphasis on that you needed to focus on, and getting his hands on the Sylas once again, when you give him the resources to be a carry, this is what he's able to do with it.
And the setup for this was also pretty impressive because they were actually able to get their 1-3-1 setup with Kingen, with Zeka in side lanes. And that was actually, again, such an improvement from what we saw from DRX in their domestic play.
So while it was DRX, obviously, that took the victory in this game number 2, I wanted to point out a specific T1 play, and it keys into Keria and some of his top performing here in the series so far. As we know, every second counts, and thanks to the reliable Cisco network, in this play here, it's a twofer. First, T1's Keria pulling the trigger the moment he sees his opportunity, lands every single one of his skill shots that is CC related on Pyosik to make sure the jungler gets eliminated. And then, of course, T1's owner will have a couple of impressive mechanics himself to secure that dragon.
It was feeling like this was going to be the moment that T1 has the sweep in hand. As soon as he gets all of the movement abilities, all thing backwards, like every split second counts in this sequence.
I like it. We're updating the tagline. It's not just every second, it's every split second counts now.
Yeah, it's such an amazing play by T1, and there were so many little moments throughout this 45-minute long game that could have gone either way, but it's so fitting that we are tied 1-1, guaranteeing at least 2 more.
Exactly, and I just wanted to show that because it goes all the way back to your initial point, Jad, that when DRX takes a punch, okay, sure, but they get right back up and they look for that next fight, because we were pretty much ready to call it when something like that happens in a high-intensity game. So here we are, reminding ourselves of the draft here from game number 2. T1 on blue side, what do you want to see here, Jet?
Yeah, I want to see DRX, when they do the switch up, to have a better answer to Varus, because Varus has been the first pick champion in both series. I don't necessarily think that DRX is going to be letting through any of their major champions.
I think that DRX just needs to keep getting these prior lanes. They had it in top, in mid, they had good control with the investment, and in bot lane, they're contesting that wave. Push is important, Dash.
We're all tied up. We are guaranteed to not have a sweep here in the World Championship, and I couldn't be happier about that. Let's see if we can get all the way to 5. There is so much action that has led up to today, and while it can't, or rather can be hard to keep up with, Spotify and a few of our colleagues, this being one right here, have got your back. Be sure to download the newest episodes of both the Rip Reaction Podcast and Dive For Ya to get informed and to revel in the anime arc of our finals. While you do, we're stepping away. When we come back, it's game number 3 right after this.
Kingen goes in, Owner's the target, but now Zeus is locked down. Keria's here over the wall. It's first blood over to Owner, and T1 are absolutely outplaying. Pyosik will not find the damage yet. He won't find the damage at all. Keria gets it. Faker goes over the wall. Zeus tries to fight, but the damage pours in. Zeka grabs a third as they're now going to find Faker here in the bottom lane. Kingen and Deft do the work, and that's money in Deft's pocket. The push continues. Inhibitor falls. DRX want to make it happen. Owner trying to flash in, trying to do it, trying to save it. But no! DRX rise to the occasion.
Red Bull gives you wings.
welcome back to Worlds 2022 here in the finals, here in a tied series.
Oh boy. I doubted them a little bit there, DRX, in the game, but I guess when you doubt them, they only get stronger.
I just can't get over a lot of the reactions and mechanics too. How about Kingen and these hook shots? Every time an arrow is shot at him, it looks useless. He wastes so many of those cooldowns from opponents. Really nice play from him.
Reaction time was flawless, really, wasn't it? Even on the ones that missed, he was already ready to jump away. Only had that one mistake in mid that hurt their Baron push. But T1, I expect him to be back on the blue side, run back something similar. Does DRX change it up? You know, we saw the Yuumi ban, we saw the targeted Lucian Nami, we saw the Caitlyn ban. Do they want to give one over and try something new? Because in game one, can you fault their draft? Sylas Aatrox, that's really DRX's bread and butter, but maybe they want to change the matchups and pick differently.
And to me, that's one of the most fun things about a series, especially one of this quality, of this caliber, is seeing the way the teams will adapt between the games, seeing the changes they choose to make, the problems that they assess as what was really critical in that last loss. And I'm really excited to see what DRX brings out here in the third.
Yeah, and T1 as well, right? Do they think that Sylas was a big problem in that last game? Is Varus now all of a sudden the flavor of the series? Is that something that DRX want to deny? Do they have an answer to it? Because Varus has been first picked both games. T1 showing it with 3 bot lane bans, DRX responding to it with 3 bot lane bans, and both teams need to figure out the Varus dilemma.
And there should be a drop in priority on the Aatrox. Both teams have shown strong counters with the Camille, with the Yone for themselves, being able to outplay it. So we'll see about a lot of adjustments here. On the red side for DRX, though, it's so hard to get away from these bottom lane necessary bans because, like we talked about, Jeff hasn't played much Aphelios. You can't play the Aphelios plus Lulu into the Lucian. So Yuumi and Lucian remain permabans, and then probably the Caitlyn unless you want to pull out something crazy.
So Varus first pick is probably going to be the answer here from T1. Now, does DRX take away Renata? They've left that open. They banned it in game 2. Kalista's locked in. Kalista Renata. That's their answer to Varus. Will it work is the question. What is T1's response here? Do they go for some kind of melee support into this Renata? Do they play Varus Karma to try to contest the push? The problem with the Karma is you don't have a lockdown onto the Kalista. So Aatrox is up, Sylas is up, Ryze is up for Faker if he wants to blind pick it.
There it is, looking at double poke here. More aggressive fight over the priority in that pushing bottom lane. If you go with something like Leona or Nautilus, looking for the all-ins, looking for the kills, immediately picking up for Faker, though. The security of the team fight is here.
I wonder if something like Thresh could work. Kalista's very hard to hook. Karma will get the push, but I think she'll fall off. It makes sense. That's the default answer. As you expect, they're just going to go towards it. No Thresh shenanigans to be had. No Zeus Yone, no Aatrox blind pick. DRX have found a different response, and this draft will look a lot different in terms of side lanes.
Yeah, I mean, the pushing on the bottom lane has just been so critical. They don't want to give it up. And now, though, the confidence of Zeka, this champion, he has mastered both the Sylas and the Akali sides of it. It's a big part of DRX's handle on the meta that got them here. Confidence to lock it into Faker again. Last time around, he actually had more CS, even with all the harassment from the Azir.
Great ultimate to take away as well. Varus ult is just going to be so powerful to control. There's a Yone ban, so I think T1 might have to ban away Aatrox. DRX might look to pick Aatrox up on 4 here. A lot of powerful champions up and available. Camille, Fiora, Aatrox. We're looking at champions like Graves, Viego as well. Kindred is up for Pyosik as well if he wants to look for that angle.
Well, with